Good morning, Hemi. Hope you're doing well. Oh, Bradley, today is the day of love. It's not very loving to tell people that their opinions are stupid. Hey, Leah. I wasn't sure if you were gonna be able to come up, but sent it to you anyways. Thanks, Hemi. If you want to, I don't know if you have Discord, but I'm happy to make you backgrounds too. You do a good job though. But if you ever feel lazy about it, I'm happy to. Okay, if you just put your name in the chat and I'll screenshot it when I get off of here. I'll add you on there. I can send you some of the ones that I typically use. Depending on the layout that you use, I might have to play around with it because TikTok's not very user friendly with the backgrounds, but
No, they're not. It's so annoying.
yeah, you have to make the sizing perfect.
What do you use to make your backgrounds? Because I feel like I make them and then I put it on here and it's like it just doesn't fit, or the comment, you can't read the comments, or
So
it's
what I
annoying.
do is I use Canva and I I delete the premium and then I get the premium back. It's kind of worth it for the premium just cuz you have more icon options and background options and stuff, but and then so I take the background that I created and then I go onto the live and there's a practice mode option. And so if you go into the practice mode, you can throw up the background and then kind of see how it's going to look. And then you always want to make it a little bit smaller because when a guest comes in the box, it shifts to the side. And so kind of up and to the side. And so you have to it kind of takes some trial and error, honestly.
Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna have to re-explain that to me another time because my daughter was talking to me at the same time, so I heard
Oh,
bits and pieces. So I was like, okay, because I do have Canva. I do pay for the premium.
yeah, yeah.
But uh, every time I don't know. I don't know if Canva is supposed to be a mobile app, but I always try to do it on my computer. And using it on the computer is so much more complicated than it is using it on your phone. But,
Really? Yeah, I've never used it on a PC before.
well, it's my laptop, but I mean, same difference, I guess. But
Yeah.
um, I was trying to print something the other day from Canva. It would not, I could not figure out how to print what I was trying to print
Oh
from
no.
Canva on my computer. So I went to my phone and I saved it. I am not kidding. I think I saved the same PDF like 10 times trying to print this stupid thing. And
The struggle is real.
I went on my phone and figured it out like in 2 seconds. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah. The phone's just, I think we're just more accustomed to the phone
Yep.
navigating. Meow one meowing of art. Are you an adult?
Yeah, I'm 19.
Okay, lovely. Which prompt are you wanting to talk about?
Uh, let's do the abortion is child sacrifice or murder. Let's do that topic.
Okay, what are your thoughts on abortion?
Sorry.
You're fine.
Well, I'm pro-choice personally. Um, I know you guys are abolitionists, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pro-choice.
Okay. So with abolitionists, like we're fully transparent that we're coming from like the Christian worldview. And we engage biblically with that context. So what worldview are you coming from? Are you atheist, Christian, agnostic, other?
Well, I'm atheist.
Okay. Why is that?
Um, I've never really believed in any sort of God, and I've never really heard of a good enough reason to actually believe in any sort of in any God. Like I know there's multiple God. Well, certain religions believe in like certain gods and whatnot. But I've never like personally heard a good enough reason to actually believe in like let's say the Christian God or anything like that. I've never heard of a good enough reason to actually believe in them.
What do you mean by like a good enough reason? Because as far as like, you know, like the Bible's made it perfectly clear that like God has revealed himself to us like his invisible qualities, and written his law on our hearts. So you say that it's like you just haven't seen enough to be convinced, but what other, like, if you're going to take God out of the equation, how do you account for like any sort of moral claim under your worldview being valid or not?
I don't really base my morality on religion. If you want to base your morality on religion, that's perfectly okay. You do you. But I personally don't base anything on religion.
Yeah, but like, how are you able to make any moral claim then?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily
Because
need.
if you're gonna say that, like for instance, like in regards to abortion, if you're gonna say abortion is not wrong, how are you able to make like a right or wrong claim about things?
Um,
Or is that just like, is it just your opinion?
well, I don't think. Well, yeah, I guess we could. I guess we could say it, but then again, Um, every single time I'm learning about a new topic, I always do a lot of research in it, and then my I base my morals and stuff like that on what I've researched and stuff like that.
Okay, so like what kind of, are you talking, when you say research, are you talking about like science?
Yeah.
But science doesn't make moral claims.
Then again, I don't exactly understand why I need religion to make moral claims.
Well, I understand that you don't think that you need religion to make moral claims. And my view is that you do have a religion that you're following to make moral claims. But what I'm asking you is how you're making these moral claims without religion.
I'm pretty sure, like,
Is it just like, because a bunch of like people have typically like different ideas of like where that, like how they rationalize that, and like where we kind of got before was that it's kind of like a subjective thing with you, but if it's a purely subjective moral view, what I'm still not understanding is how you can say that your subjective moral view, which really is just sort of your opinion, how you can take your opinion and say that it's valid when comparing it to someone else's opinion. And then for a Christian, like you're comparing your opinion to a Christian's, or to me, right? An abolitionist, a Christian. And my moral claims come from God, the creator of everything.
but
So to say that like your opinion, like it's not grounding it for me.
But then again, not everybody believes in God, any God for that matter. Not everybody believes in it. Everybody,
Then
every,
why do people act like they do? Like,
I,
for instance, people make claims all the time that indicate a creator. Like, for
well,
instance, would you say that grape is always wrong?
yeah, and Shimoda as
Right.
well.
Right. So how can you make like a universal claim like that? You're acting like there is a God, but then you're saying that there isn't.
Well, I feel like you don't need a God to understand that taking a human life, for without a justifiable reason, I don't think you need a God to recognize that that's
Well,
universally wrong.
well, why would anybody be like in an atheist worldview? Why would anybody need to justify their subjective actions that they make based on their own subjective view? Why would they need to justify that? Are they justifying that to you? Like, what authority would an atheist have to say that someone has to justify their killing of another human being?
Hu- li- Shit. Sorry. Like I mentioned, you don't morals are purely up to the person. You don't necessarily need some. You don't need a god to tell you what is right and wrong. You more often than not, people learn it based on experience. What is right and wrong?
Sure, but there's people who learn from experience to be serial unalivers. From their experiences in their childhood and the trauma they experienced, their subjective morals that were shaped by how they grew up, they end up doing egregious, terrible things that we shouldn't legally permit. So how are you able to verify their lifespan of experiences and moral frameworks and justifications to yours and say that theirs is wrong and yours is right?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not here to say like you're just because I disagree with your moral framework or just because I disagree with your morality, I'm not here to be like, um, oh shit, you're wrong and you should believe the way that I believe. I'm not here to say that.
If you were talking to someone who was a rapist or a P3, you wouldn't be able to look at them and say like that their justifications and personal subjective reasonings and moral frameworks for justifying those actions are obviously always going to be wrong.
Well,
I
here's
do think that you would look at someone like that and say, no, I'm not going to allow you. I don't care what you've experienced. I don't care what your morals tell you is okay. That's not okay. Like, how are you able to do that?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, well, first of all, you mentioned P3DOs. There's a bunch more. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes when it comes to P3DOs besides the morality, like biology. If you've seen like a brain scan of a P3DO's brain, you could see that they are extremely messed up.
Yeah, no, I agree for
There's
sure.
a lot
There's
more that
definitely
goes.
science that can we can look at and say like that these things there's like biological frameworks for maybe why that person acts that way. But like if an atheist was looking at these brain scans, how do you know when you're looking at those brain scans that what you're seeing is actually like what you're seeing and means what you think it means?
Well, but at that point, it's just science and biology. we
Sure,
we
but it doesn't make moral claims. Like I said earlier, you're just looking and you're like, yeah, this person seems to have something maybe wrong with their brain. But then if you're going to say that there's something incorrect about the layout of their brain, like how are you able to verify that information to be valid or invalid? I feel like I've asked this question to you like 14 times
right,
now.
but we're just
Like
arguing.
how do
We're
you verify and validate any sort of fact claim at all? How do you account for any sort of like knowledge under your atheist worldview?
well, I don't need. Okay, well, two things. Well, actually, one thing. we've the reason you keep asking me about morals is because we've striven away from the whole abortion debate. We've just been talking about, or instead of talking about like the abortion as child sacrifice or murder topic, we've just been arguing about morals for the past 15 minutes.
That's what this conversation is about. When you're talking about whether or not killing someone is justified or unjustified, that is a moral claim. That's a moral, like, even just to say murder exists is a moral claim. So you're going to have to account for, like, your morality, where it comes from, how you reach conclusions within it.
Can I ask,
Without my claim is that without God, knowledge is not possible. And in scripture, it says that, God has written his law on our hearts. And so I have reasons for why you are able to make these sort of like claims of knowledge and morality. And, you can say that child rape is always wrong. I have justifications and reasonings for why you're able to do that, even though you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness by saying you're an atheist.
well,
But you haven't, absent God, proven any of your knowledge claims.
Well, here's the thing. First, if you want to base your morals and whatnot, or knowledge or whatever, on religion, and if you believe, and you can believe in whatever the hell you want to believe in. That's up to you. I'm not here to judge or do anything like that when it comes to that. But not everybody and here's the thing. Not everybody bases their morals on religion. You could have morals without religion.
How? You've yet to explain how that would be possible, bro. I've been asking you to explain how that's possible. How does science... Okay, explain that then, because you keep saying science. How does science make moral claims? Break that down for me. And then I think Leah was wanting to interject something.
I'll answer that in a sec. I'm just confused on why we keep going. We're arguing, instead of arguing about abortion, why are we arguing about whether or not...
Because you're talking to an abolitionist. When you talk to an abolitionist, you're going to have to answer these sort of questions. So I'm not pro-life, okay? So I don't only operate within the normative framework of these conversations.
Yeah, and under like everything that you've been saying, under your worldview,
But go ahead, sorry. I should let you talk.
It's okay. Under his worldview, he would permit men or women who are rapists to follow their morals and their belief system.
Right.
There's no telling them that they're wrong because that's their morals and that's their belief system.
Right. Which it's a shame that he left, because like that wasn't like, he could have just explained how he's making this claim that science is what makes things right or wrong.
Can I answer that for you?
Sure.
I was on multiple lives with him.
Well, first, are you an adult first?
Yes, I'm 20. Sorry.
You're good. You're good. And then just two more questions. Are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice.
Okay. And are you atheist, agnostic, or something else?
I kind of dabble in a little bit of them all. I'm interested in getting into religion.
Okay.
But I'm not there like 100% yet.
Okay. And you said you wanted to answer the question of like how science can make moral claims?
Yeah. So like I said, I was on lives with him before, and he has the right idea, but he doesn't persecute it well. So what he meant, in like my opinion, was that science backs the reason why we think this way. Like based off what we see.
Okay. So
he's not saying that it makes...
I think it's better like in these conversations, rather than to like speak for other people, like speak for yourself, because we're not all like monoliths. Not every atheist thinks the same. Not every pro-choicer thinks the same.
Right.
So when I'm talking to you, like, how do you determine things to be right and wrong?
Personally, it's what I've learned from my parents. Neither of them are religious, so they basically got it from their parents as well. But you can't just say that you don't have morals because you're not religious.
I didn't make that claim. I said that without God, knowledge
How
is
do you make your
impossible.
morals?
And within my worldview, scripture has made it very clear that God has written his law on our hearts. And when atheists or agnostics, whatever it is, make these claims of morality, it's not because they don't think God exists, it's because they know God exists, but they are suppressing the truth and unrighteousness as it tells us in Romans. So I'm not saying that you're not capable of, like, you don't have the ability
How do
to
you
make.
teach morals?
So like I was in the middle of a sentence. I was almost done. So I'm not saying that you aren't capable of making moral claims. I'm saying that without God, justifying those
Said it
moral
3 times
claims
already.
are impossible.
Yeah, I know. You said it 3 times already.
Okay. So I try to be like pretty polite in these conversations. Like, I know we disagree on some things and you're going to disagree with things that I have to say, but if we could just keep it civil.
Yes, but
So go ahead and say what you were trying to say. Go ahead.
you take too long. Like, you say the same thing over and over again.
I have 3
Bro.
people waiting in line. So
Yeah,
like
you don't have to be disrespectful. If you want to have a cordial conversation, then that's fine, but don't
I
be rude
literally
for no
asked
reason.
her. I asked her
I
where
don't
you
care.
learn
You're up here
morals.
being rude for no reason.
Bro,
No
it's
reason.
not that deep. It's not that deep.
I
So
don't
where do
care
you
how
learn
deep it is or
morals?
how shallow it is. You don't have a
So
right to come up
where do you
here and
learn
be
morals?
rude for no reason.
Are you gonna answer me?
I didn't hear your question because you like to
Jules,
overtalk people.
Jules, this is what happens when you start like getting in your feelings, and like it stops the productive conversation. So
You're in
like,
your
do you even
your
remember
religious
like
belief.
what you were gonna say?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then say it.
I said, where do you think you learn morals from?
God.
Yeah, I already made that clear.
Not
And yes,
everybody is
yes,
religious though.
it
Yes,
doesn't
they
matter.
are. Everybody is religious.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. Even if you don't
Okay, what is
have,
atheism?
if you say you are atheist, you are still adhering to a set of beliefs. That's
Not
something that
existing a
there's not
God.
a God. You're
Right.
saying that
A
there's
belief
not a God.
system.
Exactly. So where do they learn their morals from? Because they don't believe in religion. They have nothing to go off of.
Okay, so
That's what
what
I'm asking
script?
the atheists. That's what I'm asking the atheists. Because I've made it clear that, like, according to my worldview, God has written his moral law on our hearts. Okay? But I'm asking, under your worldview, someone who's denying the God of the Bible, Yahweh, how you are accounting for making these sort of claims without
Because
God.
not all morals are in religion.
Okay, so
That's not what I
we are not
asked.
atheists, so you need to tell us where your morals come from.
Right. And you said something about like how you were raised, like your parents' instructions.
Yeah, so nature versus nurture. If I was raised by another set of folks, another couple, then I wouldn't be and I wouldn't have the morals that I do today.
So could the people that who raised you and taught you things, like, could they be wrong in everything that they're instructing you in?
Yeah, they could be wrong, and I found times where they were wrong and we corrected.
Okay. So how do you know that they weren't wrong, and that like the beliefs that you're holding and rejecting God, how do you know you're not wrong in doing that?
The thing is, you never know that you're wrong, but I'd rather not believe in a religion 100% because I feel like it restricts me.
You never know when things are wrong. So
Yeah,
you
but you
don't
just admitted that
You
you
don't
could be
ever not
you
know.
just
You have
you just admitted that you could
guideposts
be wrong. So how do you know you're not wrong about what you just said?
because I know I'm not wrong.
how,
Are
how do you
you
know
It's
sure
that?
backed
about
off
that?
of science and my morals and other people's morals as well. I'm not the
How do
only
you
one
know
who
that
has
your
this
how do you know
ideology.
that your morals are correct?
The thing is that morals will never be right or wrong. They'll just be either a little bit corrupt or they'll be fine.
How do you know if they're corrupt?
Seeing the fallacies in it,
How do you know if there's fallacies in somebody's morals?
being educated.
So like logic?
No, being educated, I would say, because someone's common sense or logic isn't the same as another person's.
You think logic varies like person to person?
Yes, I
The
do.
laws, like the laws of logic?
No, I think basic common knowledge and like their ideology and the way that they see things are different.
Okay, but to verify whether like their views or opinions and that sort of thing, you said that you would say that if there was like fallacies and that sort of thing within it. So you're obviously appealing to the laws of logic, right?
No.
Okay, then I don't know why you brought up logic.
Because, bro, you were literally just arguing with me about morality, and I'm saying that it's just the ideology. Like, you learn that from other people.
Okay, so how do you determine other people's ideology is correct or incorrect?
There is no right or wrong.
Oh,
Oh,
really? So grape is like just maybe it's okay?
I mean, it's not okay under my views.
Okay,
why
but
are
to
you
somebody
forcing?
else.
Why are you going to
Go ahead.
force your belief on somebody that disagrees with you?
Why are you going to force that 12-year-old little girl over there that just got raped that she
That's a
needs to give birth?
dodge.
Yeah, nice dodge. I'll answer your
Bro,
question when
what?
you answer mine.
Will you stop being a cunt?
Wow. Okay.
Well,
Wow.
I'm not
This is
going to
probably
tolerate that sort of language on here. Like, it's clear you don't have an answer for that question and you walked into like a freaking landmine and then didn't know how to handle it. But that's sort of like, we didn't call you any names at all. It's not necessary. Okay, I don't know who's been here the longest, so I'm just going to start from the bottom to the top, I guess. See if this person even is here still. Doesn't look like it. Golly. I can't even remember. Did she say she was pro-choice? Because
Yeah, she said she was.
that's
She said she was pro-choice. She was
very
like,
on par for like women's rights and all of that, to just call women you disagree with the C word.
yeah, wasn't the first, won't be the last.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
LED farmer.
Yep.
Hello, are you an adult?
Yep.
How old are you?
23.
Okay. What are your thoughts? Which prompt are you wanting to address?
All of them, I guess. They all kind of coincide with each other in some way.
Not really. There's a lot of information behind each one. Which one would you like to start with?
Let's go for the abortion one. Let's tackle that one.
Okay. So, are you pro-life or are you pro-choice?
Pro-choice.
Okay. So, do you think that murder is a choice that should be protected?
Well, you can't call it murder, can you?
What murder? I was just asking in general.
Or schmurder, I mean, sorry. Whoops.
That's fine. I said it too. So, like, under your worldview, how do you, do you say that people should have, like, a choice to schmurder?
A choice to benefit themselves, maybe? Yeah, sure, but not just to schmurder somebody, no.
To benefit themselves. Okay, because I'm talking about just, like, in general. So, in general, people should have the choice to schmurder so long as it benefits them?
Are you getting ready to, like, connect this to the main argument? Because that doesn't really work like that.
Well, you're pro-choice, so you clearly don't think that abortion is schmurder, but you acknowledge that
No.
schmurder does exist. So I'm just asking, in the view that it does exist, how are you able to say that schmurder's wrong? That's where this is leading.
Because when schmurder happens, you're killing somebody who's conscious and fully aware of what's going on.
Why do those things matter?
Because that's what develops when you turn into a human.
Why? So what?
What do you mean, so what?
Why?
It's a big part
you're not
in
telling-
self-identifying
you're
and
just saying-
self-awareness.
You're just saying like that those things matter, but why do those things matter?
They matter because they make somebody their person.
Says who?
History?
History?
All of human time?
What does history say about taking a living human being and saying that they have to be more than that to be a person? What does history say about that? Because
It depends. Are you looking at it from a Christian perspective or a normal human being perspective?
I recall history, like when you start tacking like random things that maybe you can claim are related to science onto being human to be a person, like the color of your skin or any sort of like, your physical characteristics that a person doesn't personally like. And they could even say like, it's because of science. But adding those things on to being a person, history has frowned upon that mindset very heavily. So, you made this appeal to history, and that's what history tells me about, caring about something extra to make a human a person.
But it hasn't done anything yet to justify even staying.
What are they supposed to be doing?
Nothing, exactly. They can't do anything. They're fully dependent.
They literally can't.
What does
so why are you
what does a
expecting them to
newborn
do
do?
something more?
What does a newborn do?
It sits there and may or may not kill the mother while it's in there for 9 months. Because it requires a lot of resources to grow and develop.
Do you think that they
Yeah,
have
so
like,
does
little
so
weapons
does a newborn.
in there? Do you think that like they have like fetuses have like and they're just like attacking their mom like randomly, like they might just flip a switch and like
Do you know what an ectopic pregnancy is?
Yes.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah.
Can you tell me?
It's an outer-uterine pregnancy.
Yeah, outer uterine, which means it could literally just get stuck anywhere and start growing as it normally does, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
there's a few common
baby-
places that they typically get stuck.
Yep.
It would depend like where specifically you're talking about that they would unfortunately have that happen, but that's
Let's just say fallopian
that's
tubes.
not the. Oh, okay. Have they passed away?
They usually do. It's like a
They
heavy
do.
mortality rate when that happens.
I'm talking about the child, and you're right. They usually are.
Yes, the baby and mom die together, yes.
No.
No.
Usually when they discover like a tubal ectopic pregnancy, fetal demise has already occurred, and I have no issue
Okay.
with moving
Okay,
a child
I'm not going to
who's-
let you say this because I was an
The
ectopic baby,
child
so just let me talk.
who's passed away, being removed, I have no problem with that. But if fetal demise hasn't already occurred, I would advocate for like, I don't know if you said you were ectopic, but there's something called that's like expectant management. And so I think that's fine. Or, if they need to deliver the child, that might need to happen. And unfortunately, the child might die because of that. But that would be a tragedy.
Letting it die like that is inhumane. You realize that, right?
It wouldn't be an act of schmurder. It would be a tragedy.
Because it dies on its own without our intervention, correct?
They pass away because we don't have the medical technology to sustain their life just yet.
That's wonky. That's a wonky way to look at it.
Hey, like, how else is medicine supposed to ethically advance in that sense, Because
medicine can't advance when people like you are saying don't do this.
Medicine can't advance when we're killing babies that are in high-risk situations rather than...
Okay, so go tell that to the
life.
brain dead guy in a hospital bed that's been sitting there for 3 years.
A dead guy? Why would I ask a dead guy? He's dead.
Brain dead.
How do we
that's
go from
dead.
an ectopic pregnancy to a brain dead guy in a
I'm
hospital?
Because she's straying off. She's trying to make a point and it's not working.
No, she's still talking about ectopic pregnancies and she's making points, and then you
No, she's patronizing me,
pivot to
acting
a
like I know
brain-dead
nothing on
man
this.
in the hospital.
What? No, I'm not. I think you have valid things to bring up. I just think that, like, you're a little bit, like, I don't know the word for it, but gun-ho.
Uneducated?
No. I just think that you're very, like, you have a lot of thoughts in your brain that you're trying to get out. So that's fine.
Yeah.
But
I advocate heavily for women's rights.
do you think that, like, schmurder is a thing? Like, sometimes...
Don't call it schmurder. It's not that. You're straw manning a word into an argument.
In general, bro, calm down.
No, it doesn't relate. It doesn't.
Calm down. You need to calm down.
You're trying to push an argument that doesn't make sense, ma'am.
We'll just take it. Okay, so we're just going to take it really simple. Okay, so I'm going to make a claim, and then you tell me your thoughts on this claim. Human life begins at conception, and at conception, this is an image bearer of God.
No.
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 Okay.
Only Christian websites say that, so that's not a fact.
The NIH is
What?
a Christian website.
Dude, that's not Christian. That's not a Christian thing. That's like
That's
a
biology.
yeah.
What
That's just
website did
basic
you read that
biology.
on?
I didn't even read it from a website. That's from like any embryology textbook. I have in my bio link tree. I have like over 100 different citations.
Okay,
that
then you
say
would
that.
know in each medical textbook that it's an opinion of a well-known doctor. It's not a fact. It's their well-known
It's an
opinion.
observable fact because IVF exists.
No,
so
it's
they
not.
can observe that when sperm fuses with egg, that a unique individual human organism's life begins. They can observe
It
that.
does not begin until they're born.
Then how does IVF work? How does IVF work?
They get pregnant. What do you mean IVF? It's just a way to get pregnant. That's
with a
not birth
living-
or...
With a living human, right?
No, with a sperm cell.
No!
Oh no.
Yes!
That's
Buddy.
not true. It's really not
Do you know
true.
what
I'm
in
not even
vitro
trying to be-
fertilization is?
Yes, they take the sperm and the egg in a petri dish and they fuse
They
them
take the
together.
sperm and the egg, not a child that's already grown. Thank you.
Listen. It doesn't matter that they're not already grown. They're not supposed to be grown. Okay? So and by the way, them growing is proof that they are living because dead things don't grow. Okay, so with in vitro fertilization, just let me finish explaining this. In vitro fertilization, it's sperm and egg, and they put these two together and then they fuse. And what happens when they fuse is they create a unique individual living human organism. And then they take that, the blastocyst, zygote, embryo, depending how long, right? They've been...
Yes, all the names of the cells, yes.
Right, the cells have been dividing, they've been growing because they're alive. And then they place that in the woman's womb in hopes that they implant. That's what IVF does. So they know.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel bad when you slam your hand on a table because single cell germs are on it and they're dying by your
gosh.
hand?
How old did you say you were? I don't remember age checking you.
He said
Old enough to have graduated college and studied all of these topics, ma'am.
Yeah, it doesn't
I don't need you
sound
flaming
like
me in
it.
comments instead of bringing a constructive argument to
You
here.
sound like you haven't even went through ninth grade
I know,
biology.
you're insulting me, you're trying to hurt me. Just let the
No, I'm
conversation
not trying
continue.
to hurt you. It just doesn't sound like you've been through a basic biology class.
That's what
telling
you
us
think
that
because you think you're
life
smarter than
begins
everybody.
At
Hang on.
conception. No, we just paid attention.
I explained, LED, I explained earlier, I gave a distinction for why this life mattered. I said it was made in the image of God.
You gave an analogy.
No. I said it was made in the image of God. So this is a unique...
That's your opinion. You don't know what God looks like.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I just finish addressing your point before you,
Go ahead.
I'll let you talk. You're acting like I'm not going to let you talk. It's really, stressful.
When you go, God is this, God is doing that, it kind of throws your argument.
I've got to do that because... Okay, so when you slam your hand on a table and bacteria dies... That's a really hard smack. It doesn't matter because bacteria is not made in the image of God, but these human beings, these human embryos are made in God's image. That's why they're valuable. That's what makes us different from any other animal. And I can tell, you're saying you're appealing to my God, which is crazy. But what do you think makes humans different than animals or bacteria or trees?
Complex DNA evolving over millions of years.
Why does that matter?
Are you kidding? The Bible matters, but DNA construction doesn't?
You're giving a scientific description, but you're not telling me. I'm asking a moral question. So,
oh my God.
Why is it when you kill bacteria, and then if you kill a newborn, what makes one morally less than the other? Under your view.
I'm saying they're both the same because they are an organism that cannot comprehend anything outside of what they are doing right in that moment.
You're saying it's the same?
Yes! That's what my point was earlier.
So when you... Wait, I'm so confused. So when you wipe down a table with a Lysol wipe versus if someone killed a newborn,
called a germ abortion.
The same?
Yeah.
You're not being serious anymore. That sucks.
All right, that's your opinion, I guess.
So, I guess I don't know where to go from here, because if you're going to be bad faith, then I guess I'll just move on.
Single cell organism in a woman's stomach versus on a table. Tell me the difference.
One's made in the image of God. I already did.
How do you know that, though?
Oh, Well, yeah, that's a new question. So
Tell me it's the Bible.
Yeah, see, you already know because it's
The
written.
Bible's a third-party source, ma'am. It wasn't written by God or Jesus.
What's your proof for that?
All the chapters in it with people's names that wrote the book.
Okay, so you think that God's confined to just like humans? You don't think that he can
God created everything, correct?
You don't think he can like inspire his word to be written?
Through who? How? Don't you think everybody would be inspired if he just told us?
No. So in the Bible, it accounts for this.
Oh my God.
It does. It says that there's no more like special revelation. So if somebody were to say, God told me this and I wrote this down and it says this and that's what God said, they would be lying. Because God is like, he's all knowing. So he was very thorough in the scripture, in the Bible, in the moral frameworks that he gave us. He accounts
Pull
for
Snow White up here since she wants to talk. Does she have a point that she can make?
Well, I thought we were having a conversation.
Well, she's just yapping in here, telling me I don't know the difference between a zygote and actual bacteria, which I do. I don't think you went to college because they're not even close to being the same.
No, yeah. I think you know the difference between those two things. I don't think that you're like an unintelligent person. I think that like...
I wasn't drawing a conclusion between them being the same like cell. I was drawing the conclusion of they're both single cell, not complex organisms. That's what I was doing.
You were just saying that like they both don't matter.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's crazy to someone like, because you have to understand where other people are coming from, especially like women who've like carried pregnancies. Like, so sometimes they lose their babies like really early, and that's a child loss. And so when you're comparing like their child loss to a bacteria, it's kind of like, it's not a great thing to say. So you gotta...
I'm not necessarily comparing a woman losing her child like to just pure circumstance.
Well, but you said that it was comparable to like wiping down a table with a Lysol wipe.
No, I'm saying like getting an abortion that you would like the reward outweighs the risk. Like say you have a pregnancy that's something's twisted up. I'm not being descriptive, but something's like broken. And there's no going back unless you have to take the baby out or something like that, right?
You're talking about like just that it's like a natural death,
like a termination of pregnancy. That's what I mean. Like you have to do it right now, otherwise you're not living past tomorrow.
Oh, wait. So you're talking about like to save the woman from like sepsis and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, just like all the complications that come with pregnancy and like a complicated pregnancy.
Oh, like
that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about just like, I want to get rid of this child, because that's like
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That the I want to get my child taken out of me thing is kind of a basis by basis thing. Like you can't just take all of them into a group and then go, oh, you're all like this because you want to do this.
So for you, like, is it your, and I might be like misunderstanding, but is it your view that like you think that abortion's like only necessary for like those high risk emergency situations where like
I think the absence of choice in a situation like this completely will take away all of those things, not just women being able to just simply get their baby taken out, but in any circumstance where they're having trouble, you know, like abortions aren't allowed anymore, say.
No, but
so now you're having trouble with a pregnancy.
That's not the case though. Because, like, even though you're pro-choice...
But it's still an abortion, though, you know?
But just even with you being pro-choice, so you saying that for, like, high-risk pregnancies and medical emergencies, you understand that women, like, their doctors are fully capable of, like, giving care to, like, them and their preborn child, even though it's, like, a high-risk situation. It just
but there's a limit to everything, you know?
Delivery.
I know what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but doctors can only do so much with the options they have. Medicine's very advanced nowadays. It's very modern, but we still can't do everything, you know?
Well, I get what you're saying, but I don't understand. What I'm not understanding is how, like, abortion makes doctors, like, do their job. Because it's like, even for the situations that you're describing, like when the doctor says like, oh, you have to get an abortion or you need to get an abortion, like they highly advise them to, it's not because like there's nothing else they can do, because there's always something else they can do. They could give care for like the symptoms that she's experiencing and like try to keep her and the baby stable for as long as possible. It's usually like a preemptive measure that these doctors cop out for.
Well, yeah, and I agree with you on that. Like the most well, let me restart here. Complications in a pregnancy don't necessarily mean that there's imminent danger, but usually it warps the birth of the baby, it warps the development of the child if there's a problem, like not enough oxygen or blood flow that can have a baby's lungs shrink or their brain not develop or their heart enlarge or like something, like anything could happen, right?
Well, sure, anything could happen to like me and you. I could lose my legs in a tragic car accident, tomorrow. But that doesn't mean
So with that
like,
in
I am
mind,
less valuable as a human.
well, no, nobody's saying that, but the quality of life is what's at stake here.
Well, but how do we determine like quality of life to be what's like something that people should be considering? Because like usually when women take the life of their children, they're not thinking about the quality of life. It's more of like a convenience for them. And if you look at like the CDC statistics on reasons women get abortions, this shows that to be the case. So like, why would you be telling women that they have to consider like the quality of life? What even is a quality life? Because everybody's life looks different, doesn't it?
Well, outside of your own handling of how your life goes, like
Well,
a
if
heart
there's
condition could impact your whole life to death situation. Like it,
yeah.
heart situations are bad with kids, especially because their
No,
bodies
but
are
like,
small and their hearts are big.
but like, where do you draw the line with that? Because if this is
I
like
think it just
his Down
I think it just
syndrome can
requires
affect your whole
one
life.
big step back. And it's not a matter of I'm right, you're wrong. It's like a matter of what is best for this child ultimately, or what is best for the mother.
But who's determining that? The
Well,
mother?
obviously medical professionals, not you or me, because at the end of the day, we're not equipped for that situation.
So even if the mother was like, I deem this to not be a desirable outcome for my child. If the doctors say, well, we view it to be a desirable outcome, maybe not perfect, but we're going to force you to still carry this pregnancy. The doctor's opinion would trump hers.
Well, that's why things like that in medical professions aren't allowed. Doctors can't tell you what to do, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it would.
It's ultimately your choice, no matter what, life or death.
So it would fall back on like the woman, her choice. So
Yeah.
what if she were to say that she enjoys pleasure, right? And so she has smecks outside of marriage, and she enjoys a certain, type of person. She has a preference, and they have a certain skin color that she prefers to have coitus with. And then she conceives and she says, well, my view is that this person's going to have like a less than desirable life because of their skin color. And so I want to have an abortion because of their, potential skin color, which they need to develop their skin, but they're not supposed to have their skin yet, but they will have that just genetically wise. Is that like a justified reason for her to have that abortion?
I mean, I can't speak on it. Like, I'm a man, I've never like.
I know. That's why, like, men should stand up and protect like children.
Well, I understand your stance on that. Babies are innocent. They don't do nothing wrong. Like, it's up to us how they turn out. Right? I get that.
But if you're gonna say like you're not really answering my question though, because you're saying like, well, I'm a man, and I understand that. But you're saying like that it's her choice, and it's her deciding if this life is going to be, what I forget the word that you use, like a quality of life or not. And so she's determining that this child's skin color is going to make their quality of life less than desirable under her view. So would she be justified in killing that child for that reason?
I mean, with the power of choice, simply the answer is yes. I mean, like,
Yeah, and that's
you
a
like it or not,
problem.
like, well,
That's a
I mean,
problem.
it is maybe, but like, that's what the power of choice
Are you pro-choice
empowers you
all?
to
Are you
do.
pro-choice all 9 months?
That was my next question, yeah.
To some degree, yeah, because
Like,
anything
what do
could
you
go
mean?
wrong. Anything could go wrong at any time during pregnancy.
Well,
Okay, so
but you
if
didn't say that it was a going wrong. You said that it was a quality of life thing. And that could be
Well, that was
whatever the
just in the
woman
circumstance
decides.
of like the child's like not
Well,
getting adequate blood supply or something like that was just in that set
yeah,
context.
but you just said that it's ultimately the choice of the mother.
Yeah,
So if she finds out that, like, if a diagnosis wasn't made until like 35 weeks, like they missed this diagnosis up until 35 weeks, she can unalive that child.
yeah,
Say it's like
yeah.
an
Power of choice.
ooh.
okay, so what if she gives birth to this baby and it has a disability that they missed? Can she unalive the child?
I don't know. It depends on if it's life threatening. I like. There's so many circumstances
Yeah,
involved with that.
it's I mean, it's just the same disability that they could have diagnosed at 35 weeks,
Right,
where
because you
she could
didn't
have
and
unalived it at 35 weeks.
you didn't say that it was like necessarily the life risk. You said that it was ultimately like even the life risk was tied to and justified with the quality of life thing. So if she had like a cryptic pregnancy, which I don't know, do you know, have you heard that term before?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Sometimes anyways. So she had a
It's when the baby's dead on arrival, right? I just want to make sure.
no, that's
No.
stillborn. That's stillborn. So cryptic,
Oh, gotcha.
you're fine, you're fine. So cryptic is you've probably heard of it, but it's where like the woman doesn't know she's pregnant until very late in pregnancy, or even up until she's given birth. Like
Yeah.
giving birth, like active labor, which sometimes she doesn't even know then. It's just pains, and then she gives birth. Yeah. So if it was something like that, but she's at home and she's given birth in her bathtub, she didn't know that this child existed. But they have like this skin color that she perceives to decrease their overall quality of life. Could she take their life because of that?
With the power of choice, yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's just what it comes down. It's not even. It's not even like what I
Okay,
care
but
about.
this is a
Like that's the
problem.
power of choice. That's what it empowers them to
Okay,
do.
so this is a problem, and you're being consistent. Like, I will tell you that. You're like, this is where the power of choice ultimately leads, and maybe you're just like, I don't know. I hope you're being serious, but this is why earlier in the conversation I was asking you, like, about Smurder, because I don't see how, if you're going to hold this, like, her body, her choice, I don't see how someone who truly holds that view can even say that Smurder exists, because you're saying that she can take the life of this newly born child because of their skin color, because she
Can
feels
we
like
get
they
Snow
don't have
White
a
out of the?
quality of
She's
life.
just slandering and arguing with everybody. Snow White.
Oh, well, I would just ignore the comments. Like, where I'm
Kind of
talking about.
embarrassing, Snow White.
So she can kill the newborn. Could she kill the toddler? For the
No, it's
same
born.
reason?
It's alive. It's walking around. It's having a good time.
The newborn's born. She's in her tub. She gives birth. The child's laying on the maybe they haven't even taken their first breath under the water. They're born. You
Yeah,
said she could take her life. Are you
that's where the
changing
line's
that?
drawn. No,
That's for
no, no,
the
no. I never said. No, I never said afterbirth. That
okay.
like
Maybe you
it's not even
misunderstood.
abortion at that point.
So you're saying that she can't, when that child's laying on the bathtub floor, that she didn't know she was pregnant with. They have a skin color that she views to decrease their quality of life significantly. You're saying that she can't kill that newborn for that same reason.
Yeah.
What changes?
What changes? It being born.
But the quality of life is what you said matters in this circumstance for her being able
But
to
circumstances
stop
also
this
change
life.
when the baby is out. Unless like something happens in the first 10 minutes where like it stops breathing or something like that,
But
like it's out of your hands at that point.
But she should, like, pull them out of the water and call someone, right?
I don't know how it works with water birth. I honestly don't know how that works.
Okay. But that
In a
is what they have
bathtub.
to do.
They birth in a bathtub or a birthing pool. The baby comes out in the water, and then they lift them up out of the water.
So
But the,
like, can the baby breathe while it's being born? I don't understand.
No, they're like they get their oxygen from the umbilical cord. And then once
Okay,
they're
that makes
born,
sense.
they're gonna need to like be pretty like quickly pulled out of the water so they can
Well,
take
yeah.
that first breath, because their reflexes of their body kicks in and everything, and they need the fluid taken out of their nostrils and maybe their lungs, and that sort of thing. It just depends. But you're saying that that's wrong, and then you're saying that she needs to do this, and the being born aspect is what changes. But I don't think that you think that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think
That
I'm
being
pretty
born
sure.
changes things?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you would say that if a doctor was giving her a C-section and they've cut her open and the child's laying there in her womb, maybe still in the amniotic sac, you wouldn't say that it should be like a legal thing, that the doctor would be protected to just like shoot them in the heart with a drug that induces a heart attack, right? Like that would be the doctor murdering that child, even though they're in her womb and they're not born yet, right?
With a C-section? I'm sorry, like it seems
Yeah.
like you're blending. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
with
they
a
cut her
C-section, you're
open.
saying
Yeah. So they see the child's right there. And, like you would say that the doctors, or if she even specified that she wanted this, like if they shot that child with a drug that induces a heart attack, they murdered that child, right?
I mean, they would only do that if there were severe complications, though.
No, but you said the severe complications is just the skin color that, decreases
Well,
her opinion that they'll have a quality of life.
the instance you're using where they do that drug, I don't know what it's called or how they do it, but
Digoxin, yeah.
that is only done when it's an impossible pregnancy, and I'm pretty sure the baby is like close to death.
But it's not. I'm giving the hypothetical that I'm giving you. It's a hypothetical that's worked to like what you've said. So you haven't said that like there's anything more than like a quality of life that determines, human beings that are preborn being able to live or not. And so, she's agreed to this, not being a child. Sorry, battery. This isn't a child she wants because of her perceived opinion that they'll have a decreased quality of life because of their skin color. And so all the boxes are checked for the doctors to induce a heart attack on that child. But do you think that would be murder?
I would have to say no. I mean, it's not ruthlessly taking a life. I know you're going to disagree with me heavily, but murder in my mind is without remorse taking somebody's life regardless of the progress they made. And in a doctor's office, that's just not happening.
But that's so without remorse. So murder is taking a human life without remorse.
Without consideration for their life or what they could do on their own, yeah. Ruthlessly, that's murder.
Okay, but serial unalivers, they like, there's been times of like them having like regret after doing something like that.
Well, yeah, there's regrets with everything. Like, straying off here a little bit.
But they still
Trans people who get procedures, some of them regret that too, but it doesn't take away from all the people who appreciated that transition.
Well, I wouldn't compare like those two.
Well, it's just a loose comparison. I'm not like drawing lines or anything.
But like, even though that serial unaliver shows remorse, they still murdered someone, right?
I mean, the act of schmurder is really like showing no remorse in a certain way.
But if someone shows remorse or doesn't show remorse, does that are you saying that like that changes that act?
I'm saying like oh, okay. Let me
Because
do
sometimes
a better
people are like
example.
are sociopaths and they don't have like any sort of like empathy or
Yeah, they don't. They're void of
feeling.
emotion, right?
Right, or they could be having like a psychotic episode where they aren't aware of like what they're doing, but you would still say that even though they're not aware of those actions, they are schmurdering someone. But how can you say that that's what they're doing if it's all like subjective and it's ultimate subjectivity? That's why I'm saying like I don't understand how you can even say that schmurder exists because it can always be
So
justified by the person subjectively.
let me give you a hypothetical, right? Or rather, an analogy. So, how do you feel about euthanasia of dogs?
Oh, I'm fine with that because they're not made in the image of God.
Okay, well, that's a lot to unpack. Why does the image of God persuade you to either let or not let something live?
Um, why does the image of God determine?
Or rather, something that was created in His
Because
image or not?
yeah, so because like without God, there is no um, way for us determining things to be right or wrong at all, or have any knowledge or make a fact claim or even to understand science. So that it's obvious that that's the case because we know that like euthanizing a dog is obviously different than euthanizing a newborn.
But you also have to look at euthanizing a dog with the same eyes as giving an abortion for a mom, because ultimately you're
No,
putting the dog down for its own sake, right?
no. I don't think, because God's given us clear instructions that, like, for the fatherless and for the needy and for the orphan, we have obligations to them. So we shouldn't, like, and we have no right to, like, claim that someone's life is, like, less worthy just because of our, like, opinion of suffering or less what like a lower quality of life, whatever that even means. And so, God, He's been very clear that as humans, we're supposed to value equal rights for all humans. And I agree with that.
Well, I'm not gonna sit here and say that your religion is wrong. I'm not. I respect all of that, but I
Well, I
believe to
think,
some extent
oh, sorry,
that
go ahead.
no, you're fine. I believe to some extent that just saying that the Bible says this, so that must be how it is. I feel like is inherently a bad way of viewing things in the world.
What's the alternative?
Morality, human morality, and how you look at things yourself. Without influence,
Hang on just 1 second.
Wait,
Yeah,
without influence?
yeah. Your own
What do
your
you mean by
own
that?
brain, your own brain forming a thought, and you going, well, me personally, I think that's either right or not right. Not, oh, well, this book said this. I'm not flaming the Bible in any way, but I'm just saying, well, this book said this, so I'm
Mm.
gonna agree with that and follow that.
Yeah, but you are always influenced by something.
Well, yeah, there's
Oh,
always outside
like you're
influence,
all yeah, so like you can't come to
but
a conclusion without being influenced to make you think the way that you're going to think.
I mean, I disagree to some
So you're
capacity.
no, so okay. Um, a man or woman thinks that grape is okay. That's
What?
their more
I'm sorry,
that's
I'm
their
not following.
a man or woman is thinks that grape is okay. That's their morals.
Yeah,
Was
they're
that
wrong. I
influ
mean,
was
they're inherently wrong, but that's their morals, right?
how are
Like
they
they'll go to
inherent
jail.
how are they inherently wrong?
because they're hurting somebody else.
What influences you to think that they are inherently wrong?
The harm of another human being like that, taking away their rights,
Yeah,
violating them.
but harm is subjective, so you can't force your subjective opinion on somebody else, right?
I mean, it's not really subjective when you like lay bruises and cuts on people and like hurt them down there, right?
That's your opinion. That's your opinion. Other people might think different than that.
That's subjective.
So what that's what I just said.
Your opinion is not what I said.
Yeah. Your opinion is subjective too. There's other people who think that scrapes and bruises are fine.
Yeah,
Grape is bodily harm.
there's people who get like scientific pleasure from inflicting that sort of harm on someone else. So it feels good to them. It's good to them.
I'm aware of that,
Some
but that doesn't mean
some people are brainwashed to think that the person doing that to them loves them and think that it's a good thing.
I'm aware. That
Okay,
you know why they think it's a good thing, right?
because they've been influenced by somebody. And then that person who's been
Well, it could
influenced
either be influence or it could be them making that influence for themselves.
No, you are taking outside influence into consideration every time you form an opinion.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not always the
Especially when you
case.
say that something's inherent. Because like when you're saying that something's inherent, like that speaks to more than just like an opinion.
Well, you're saying if a rapist subjectively hurts somebody,
Right, you
then
think
that's
they should go to
subjective
jail for
because
that. I agree. I think that they should get the death penalty for that.
Right. We agree that grape is evil and it's a wicked
yeah,
act.
it's totally
We would
evil.
agree.
Like,
But there are people in other cultures who think it's okay to marry 9-year-old little girls and grape them.
well,
And
yeah,
it's legal for them to do so. So
well, yeah, and
what makes them in your view and your opinions and your quote unquote subjective morality, what makes your subjective morals correct and theirs incorrect?
so what you're discussing about the 9-year-olds being married, I'm just clarifying, is Saudi Arabia, correct? In that whole Middle Eastern area.
Yes.
So, in the 1980s, women were very they had a lot of rights back then in Saudi Arabia
Okay.
and the Middle East, right? I don't know if you
Okay.
know this, but there was a swift I don't know, chat, if it was a war or like just a little quick
I don't know
overthrow.
how this is relevant to the
I'm
question that I
just let me
asked
get to
you
my
though.
point, you'll understand. So the government switched over, they quickly changed that, obviously, right? Because we look
Mhm.
now and it's terrible. That doesn't make what they did right, but they did it because they had the power to.
Wait, but I'm so confused though because if they had the power to make something like that, like, but then you're still saying that that's wrong. So
You
like
can think it's wrong
you
all you
still
want, but it's
haven't.
probably still going to happen, is my point.
You think that might
Oh
makes
my
right?
gosh, but
No, but then you said that it doesn't.
what what makes it wrong in your view? Like, what tells you that that is inherently wrong? Like, just because somebody makes a law about it, makes it legal, doesn't mean that it's a good thing. It's still wicked, regardless of what their culture believes.
Why are you saying wicked?
Because that is wicked.
Because that's wicked.
Are you a
I mean, if
Christian too?
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I'm an
Okay.
abolitionist.
Abolitionist. Okay, that's a lot different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can very easily
Well,
say that
no, it's
regardless
not,
of
but okay.
government power, regardless of subjective opinion, regardless of what the law currently is, child grape is always objectively wrong. We can
Yes.
say that as Christians because we're not appealing to any sort of man-made concept or, feelings or might makes right. It's to God.
We're treading on crazy ground here because you say you don't follow man-made concepts, but then you read the Bible.
The Bible's God breathed.
What? It's what?
Yeah, all those men, all the books in the Bible are God breathed.
Written
that's
by other men.
inspired inspired
Matthew, Genesis, like
inspired
all
by
those
the
people
Holy
wrote that
Spirit.
book.
Inspired by the Holy Spirit. So it
How do
would
you
be like an example would be like I'm talking to Miranda and telling her what to write down, and she writes it down. I'm still the author. Miranda's just the writer.
so with that in
The
mind,
Holy
you
Spirit indwelled in the people who wrote God's word, and he told them he told them what to write.
Yeah.
so what about Scientology? What do you think of that?
Big L.
Yeah. It's not good.
Somebody wrote a book because they heard the word of something.
Yeah, but it contradicts God's word. And so we know that
But it's
that's
a different
wrong.
religion though, so you can't really incorporate another god into that, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Is that Yahweh is the
Because
one
then, because
he's
then you would
revealed.
be ignorant to throw your religion onto somebody else's religion.
So Yahweh is revealed that he is the one true God. And so if there's any contradictions within these other like religions, that's how we're able to validate or invalidate that, is where they contradict scripture.
Do you understand how many contradictions are in the Bible about Noah's Ark alone?
Oh, how is that? How is Noah's Ark a contradiction?
It didn't happen.
It
Oh,
didn't happen?
okay.
And how are you? So you're saying that you're using like it not happening. What are you using to make that claim?
The Earth wasn't flooded a great while back. It was a rock mass with volcanoes on it.
And like, what are you using to verify that claim?
Anything but the Bible.
Well, oh, geez. Could you be more specific?
Science in general, I don't like.
Science.
How can
Okay.
you fit animals? How can you fit two animals of
Okay.
any kind
So,
on a boat like that? It's just not possible.
okay. So, how do you verify a scientific claim to be valid or invalid?
Peer reviewed.
Peer review. So,
Yes.
peer review. So it's like a group of professionals in that aspect, and
To
they
study
can,
that area of work,
and
yes. They
they
know what they're
cannot.
talking about.
So they're validating this to be true, so they can't be wrong.
Anybody could be wrong, but it's the more than likely
Right.
part that persuades people.
So it's really just a guess then, like, because they could
Is
be
yours
wrong.
not?
So no, mine's not. No,
I mean,
I
that's your
can say
opinion, but
I can
a
say
book
with
saying that something happened and then you not seeing
I
any
can
evidence of that happening is kind of
I can say with
not
certainty,
facts.
because I don't rely on like a group of individuals to verify things.
You
So,
you just rely on a book that already has words written in it,
but
right?
you're proving my point though, that when you make like this claim, you can't actually make that claim with certainty, because the source that you're validating that through is fallible, could be wrong. So you don't actually know that with certainty.
But with science comes evidence and explanation and hypothesis.
So like evidence gathered through, like gathered how? Like how are you looking at this evidence that's using like
Explain to me. Okay,
let's
so
use
this
it.
is
Hang
what
on,
we're
let me
gonna
ask
do a
this
little
question. So
explanation
like
here.
when you're looking at evidence, what are you utilizing? Is it like your
Facts.
senses and your reasoning?
My reasoning means nothing because I'm not a scientist. It's those guys with big heads that do that thinking, not me. I just defend
Oh,
them because they're doing
these
good
guys
work.
with big heads, with big thinking, what are they utilizing? Are they utilizing their senses and reasoning?
They're utilizing history from where Earth was at that time,
Yeah,
where
how do they
people
utilize
were.
something? How do they utilize history? How do they utilize anything? What are they using
They go
to
back and check the
utilize?
factual records
Okay, what are they using to go
that were
back and
made
check
by
the
other
actual fact?
scientists.
Just like, could you answer, like, is
Oh
that
my gosh.
senses and reasoning that they're going back and like they're using their eyeballs to sense, and then they're using their reasoning to draw
No, you're not understanding what I'm
conclusions?
saying.
I
They're
don't think
grabbing
this.
evidence that was made by other scientists and elaborating off of that. They're not just going, well, maybe there was a boat here. Let's see if that was possible.
Oh my gosh. So you're saying that they're like, oh my gosh, but you already said that they're fallible, that they could be wrong. But then
anybody could be wrong, yes.
Okay, so how do you know anything?
More than likely, the evidence, that just what leads to my answer.
But
I take the facts. I take what I can judge, what's here and now. What's that? Sorry.
More than likely, like, that indicates some sort of, like, consistency. But
in what way?
How is something consistent under your view? How can you have, like, this consistent testing of claims of science?
Listen,
like,
if the ark was real and there was like an indent in an area where it sank or something, or there's like a little piece of wood left where it may have been, I would believe it all the way. That's all it would take. I wouldn't even need to look at the Bible. Somebody said the ark is real and this is where it was, and look at the picture right now. I would believe it. I would, no joke, become a Christian tomorrow.
Really? But if you're looking at this piece of boat, what are you using to look at that? Like, to rationalize what you're looking at to be what you think you're looking at? It's like your senses and reasoning, isn't it?
Are you trying to get me to say like my eyes or something? Like,
sure. But your eyes would just be like your...
Is seeing believing?
Oh, for the love, man.
My goodness, I'm really trying here. Yes, like you're seeing something, like that's a sensory input to your brain, right? That's your senses.
Like you're using your brain to utilize your senses.
So let me ask you this. If
reasoning.
God did exist and you saw him with your own eyes, would you even feel the need to defend him right now?
If I saw him... What? Hold on a second. I think there's a misunderstanding there, because we aren't, quote unquote, defending him. God doesn't need defended.
Yeah.
His evidence... That's a segue, but okay. His evidence is all around us. The fact that we're even having this conversation proves that he exists.
That's your opinion.
You just suppress the truth and unrighteousness. That's not my opinion. That's what God's word tells us.
Okay. God's word through Matthew and all those other people. Remember that.
That he spoke through. Yeah.
He spoke through?
Correct. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's called religious psychosis, ma'am.
By what standard?
Scientific standard.
Could science be wrong?
Medical standard. Psychological standard. Like every standard.
Could psychologists be wrong?
No, they studied that forever. I'd trust them with everything.
They're perfect?
Is God?
Yes.
That's not what she's asking you.
Is psychology...
Because I ask every Christian that, and they have a different answer for that.
Is God perfect? If a Christian tells you that God isn't perfect, then they need to read their Bible more.
Does God not make mistakes?
Nope.
No, he doesn't.
Really? So human life wasn't a mistake? You don't think that?
No.
Okay. Well,
he created us for his glory.
What glory is there in America or any place right now?
The fact that we're having this conversation.
This conversation doesn't prove anything. It's just a what-if scenario if your God did exist.
So with that logic, why can't we just walk around and like pew people in the face?
You can. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get punished.
I'm saying,
but you can do that.
Not be punished. Like, who cares? Who cares about any of it? If nothing matters and there's nothing to prove, why can't we just live in anarchy? Why can't we just go and do what we want?
Because humans have laws in place.
But why
I don't care about those laws. I don't care about that. Overthrow the government. Who cares?
Right. There's people who think that how our society should be run is through like anarchy. That they shouldn't, that just each individual should determine what's like good and bad, and
leaving it up to religious individuals would be anarchy in itself.
Why are you okay with people forcing?
You understand what happened in medieval Europe when the church was in control, right?
Why are you okay with people forcing certain beliefs on a group of people, but you're not okay when it comes to a Christian saying, "Look,
where did I say I was okay with forcing opinion?"
What? You're
Where did
okay
I
with
say?
somebody you're okay with somebody forcing their opinion when laws are put in place.
You're forcing your belief on me by telling me God exists. There's no irrefutable proof of that. You
Yeah,
realize
so
that, right?
that's what I'm asking you. If you would stop talking for like 5 seconds, I could finish the thought. Okay?
I've been nothing but cordial and I've let you talk, so please don't insult me.
I'm not insulting you. I'm trying to have a conversation and you keep interrupting. Okay, so why are you okay with a group of people forcing their beliefs on another group of people? But when Christians come and say, hey, God exists, God hates the shedding of innocent blood, we ought not do this, you get your panties in a wad.
What okayness if am I being good with by making somebody be oppressed? I don't understand what you're saying in that beginning part there.
Yeah, why does it matter
But
under your
how am I doing
worldview?
that? How am I forcing beliefs on
Because
people? I don't understand.
because you're saying to the rapist that grape is wrong. That's your belief, right?
That's a belief by most of humanity, ma'am. That's not like
Who
violating someone's
cares?
body is an inherently wrong thing to do.
There's a lot of humanity who doesn't care. They want to be able to live that lifestyle. So why are you
Just to be
stopping?
clear,
Stop. Oh, sorry. No, I didn't realize that
just
was
to be
you.
clear, when you said because most of humanity, so are you suggesting that if most of humanity decided tomorrow that grape was okay, then therefore it would be okay?
Is that not what happened with slavery?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Was that right or wrong for them to do?
Owning humans is wrong, yes. That's not a comparable
Okay,
point to
but
abortion.
so wait, but even if all of society decided it was okay,
They did. That already happened.
right? So was that right or wrong?
What do you think?
He's
Well,
asking
my
you.
belief is because God
You already know
says
my
that.
stand on it. I
So
already said
God
it.
says that to man stealing is wrong and it will always be wrong. But what about your belief? You just appeal to the reason why we should have grape wrong is because most of humanity believes so. But if most of
Yeah.
humanity decided tomorrow that grape was okay, you would then say, well, most of humanity believes it, so...
No, I wouldn't.
No,
It's
okay.
wrong. It's a what if
No, so
analogy,
then how do
and
you
you're trying
know,
to
sir?
incorporate that into reality.
Yeah, well, how do you know it's real, sir?
But that wouldn't happen, would it? Do we know that for a
How
fact?
do you know
Yeah,
it's
we
real?
do.
You said you talked about reality. How do you know it's real?
Okay, I can tell you're upset, so why don't we just calm down a little bit?
Well, no, I'm not upset, sir. I will say this. I am disappointed that you keep rejecting what God says. And you
What
keep,
God's people that spoke through him said.
No,
No,
he
sir. See,
spoke through his people.
this is tells us that
The
you do not
Baptists.
understand basic
If
Christian
you put
beliefs.
words in my mouth and I spoke them, would that be me speaking them or you speaking them?
Again, is that how do you believe that we got the
You're
Bible?
dodging
then?
the question, man.
Okay, say the question again then for me.
When somebody puts words in your mouth and you speak them, did you speak them or did somebody else that told you those words speak them?
It was their idea. They would be the
It
author
would
of those words.
That's a plot hole, man. I'm sorry. Like that doesn't make sense.
Okay, but again, what's wrong with plot holes, sir? Can you tell us how do you know what's real?
Plot holes point out inconsistencies in your story.
Right, so how do you know that's real?
What's real?
Yeah, you talked about reality, so how do you know what's real in your worldview?
I live it. I'm right here.
Okay, cool. So you believe that
Unbiased
there's
opinion.
people you believe that there's people in our reality who are not living according to actual reality, right?
Yeah, people can choose to avoid reality if they want to.
Right, so how do you know you're not one of those people?
Doesn't make it any less real.
Okay, well, sir, so again, if somebody believed that the stove was off and not burning their hand, but in reality it was, okay, you would, what's going on there? Okay, they think it's a reality, but in actual
Well, judging
reality,
by what I just said, they would actually be getting their hand burned because they can't escape from reality no matter
well,
what
right,
they
but
think.
they believe that they're not. So what's going on, sir? There's people in this world who believe that they are not getting burned when
It's
in
a
fact
flaw
they
of
are.
thought.
So,
That's that person's fault for thinking the
okay.
wrong way.
But the problem is they think it's real. So does that make it actually real?
What?
Just because they're
I'm
deceiving
having a hard
themselves
time
too?
understanding your point.
Yeah, sir. Well, focus, and then maybe you'll get it.
You're
So,
kind of getting
me and you
excited. Why
both-
don't you just like sit in your kitty chair and just like take a sip of your milk, pal?
it
Chill
happens
out.
when you're Hawaiian. Okay, so we just talk loud,
What?
and we are very excited people. So, sir, when me and you both believe, okay, that there's people in this world whose senses and reasoning deceive them into a false idea of reality. Correct?
Reality is not here to incorporate your opinion on it. Reality
Again,
is
sir,
there
you're
whether you
dodging the
believe it or
question.
not.
I answered your question. Can you please answer
You're making
mine?
reality a subjective thing when it's not.
Sir, you and I both. Oh, I agree. Okay, but the problem is, what I'm saying is, you and I both know that there's people in this world who get deceived into their own version of reality, and it's not
Right?
actually
Yeah, that's called
reality.
brainwashing. Guess who does that the most?
Cool. So, sir, how do you know that you're not being deceived right now?
Religion does
Sir,
that.
go ahead. Sir, go ahead and tell us how you know with 100% certainty that you're not deceiving yourself right now.
Because before I speak on something and incorporate that as truth, I look at the facts, I go in unbiased, and I present them to myself.
Whoops, problem, sir. If you have to rely on your own senses and reasoning,
the process
to
of
make sense
elimination
of the
is
evidence,
wrong.
Oh, hey, guess what? You're interrupting, and you said that you were being very kind. So let's not get excited and interrupt.
God,
please.
you're so mad,
right,
dude. For
sir.
what?
Sir, so the problem is, if you have to rely on your senses and reasoning to understand the facts that you are receiving, and your senses and reasoning are not working properly to begin with, then it could be telling you that you're getting correct facts when in reality you're not. So again, you're going to have to tell us how you can trust your senses and reasoning with 100% certainty that you know you're not being deceived with the facts that you are getting.
Because I'm not taking in outside information, period. That's
okay,
how.
but sir, okay, but you just said that you're getting
See how
facts
that loaded
like
question
outside...
got fumbled up immediately when I just answered?
No, here, let me explain.
Because that's what you're doing. You're loading up a question and trying to fumble me on it, and you're not doing it.
Again, sir, pay attention, though. Okay,
I'm listening to you. Stop patronizing me.
Sir, when you're getting evidence and facts, all right, here, how about we try this, sir? Can you answer me just one simple question? Do you know what the word aloha means? Go ahead, just tell me, do you know what the word aloha means?
I'll wait for you to make a point on the topic at hand rather than straying off.
Oh, yeah, cool. Then I'll let you know. It means hello and goodbye! All right, so here's the thing is, he goes, it's not an outside source. Okay, but the problem is you just said you're receiving facts. That's obviously not coming from yourself. When you talk about evidence, you have to receive that outside. And the problem is, if your senses and reasoning are not working properly to begin with, you could be interpreting the facts incorrectly. So you have to then tell us, how do you know your senses and reasoning are working properly to begin with? And when I asked him that, what did he say? Because I'm looking at facts, but they're not outside. Okay, well... problem. And yeah, I do get excited talking about God. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think that was just like a little bit of a cop out from him, because like I get the same way where like when I'm making a point and like trying to ask a question, and he was able to like, you know, have a conversation. I just think that he just didn't want to answer.
Yeah, I was thinking
what
the
was
same
being
thing.
said.
Like I think when the realization of being backed into a corner and they're like, oh no, I can't answer this question without looking like I have to admit that I'm wrong. They start that. Why are you being condescending? Why are you being rude? Why are you so mad? Sit down, drink whatever. Did you say drink your coffee? I don't know. He was saying all kinds
I
of
don't drink
stuff.
coffee. If I drink coffee, I'd be bouncing off I'd be way more excited than I am now, I'll tell you that.
Man,
I'm a morning person, all right? I don't drink coffee. I'm like this already.
There was a few days ago, I got up and I did my normal routine, but I forgot the coffee. And I'm like, I've been drinking coffee my entire adult life. How did I forget coffee? It was but I
Could you
realized it
imagine if
after.
I drank coffee? I'd be like, how do you know your senses of reasoning are working properly to bring them on the thing? No.
That would be very chaotic.
Maybe that's my problem. Maybe I need to lay off the coffee. Maybe I need to, because I start like getting jittery and twitching and.
Yeah, Henny, that's correct. He's like, canoa plus coffee equals chaos.
By what standard, Hemi? That was rude. Just kidding. It's not.
And I like how he's like, he was complaining about you guys interrupting and stuff, and then he was like, oh, don't be rude. I haven't been rude. And then the whole time he just starts interrupting, and then he starts accusing me. You're just trying to put me in a situation. You're just trying to do this. I'm like, I'm literally just asking you simple questions. Like if you're like when you're asking certain questions, it's like, I don't think that's, I think he was just begging the question with everything he's saying, because I said, go ahead and justify your senses and reasoning. And then he goes, well, I'm going to utilize them to do that. Okay, well, problem. That's begging the question. Hey, it's the Theonomist. How are you doing, sir?
What's up, man? I see your Sunday messages to me every Sunday with verse of the week, and I appreciate
Yeah,
it, man.
I try, dude. I literally,
I mean,
I take some time and I pray for people, and you're on that list, so.
I mean, I really appreciate it, man. It's really wholesome. I honestly really appreciate it. It made me think about doing the same thing. It's good.
Yeah, dude, that's why I started doing that, honestly, is because, I was reading stuff by Charles Spurgeon, and Charles Spurgeon, when they asked him, why was your ministry so successful? And he said, my people prayed for me. And I thought about that. I was like, man, I would love if like a bunch of people were praying for me all the time. So then what does Jesus say, though? Jesus says that we are to do unto others as we want others to do for us. And so I was like, you know what? I need to be waking up. And so I wake up and pray for pastors, and then other people that I have on my mind at that time. So yeah.
And then little mean debaters.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. God gave me a gift in debate. I love to debate. It's my favorite thing. But no, I would say I agree with most of these things. I don't know if I'd necessarily agree with the last part.
Pro-life movement.
Yeah, the
What's the
pro-life
last?
movement doesn't establish justice. I agree with the overall premise, but I would say that most pro-life individuals, even if they're not Christian and they're not abolitionists, are looking for justice. They're just looking for it in the wrong places.
Well, right, but that's why they wouldn't be able to establish justice, because if they're looking for it in the wrong place, then that's why it hasn't been done, and can't be done by them, because it can only be done through a Christian worldview, and that's what the abolitionists who fought the slave trade believed as well. But that's why right now in Missouri, we're trying to put in our bill this year. And again, for like the past 7 years, it has been actually the pro-life movement that has been getting in our way and stopping us. They're already gearing up right now. The pro-life movement that has been getting in our way and stopping us. They're already gearing up right now and saying they're planning on stopping our equal rights of protection bill. And they're backed by, millions of pro-lifers as well. But I agree with what you said. If they're looking for justice, they might want justice, but they're looking for it in the wrong place. So in the end, and well, for a majority of your pro-life movement anyways, they don't want to establish equal rights of protection, so they don't want to establish justice, and they openly say that, and we have the proof for that in their open letter that they wrote, signed by over 70 plus pro-life organizations in the company, backed by other pro-life organizations that didn't get to sign, and then backed by millions of pro-lifers. So I think that's a huge, big chunk of people that, even that I think we could establish the claim off of that. It'd be like if if we had like 5 Mormons came in and they said, well, we believe in the Trinity and stuff, and we're Mormons. Well, right, but that wouldn't dictate that Mormonism as a whole believes in the Trinity. So I believe you're right. There are pro-lifers that do want to establish justice correctly according to what God says, but I don't believe it's the majority. Does that make sense, man?
Yeah. That makes plenty of sense. I think that, when it comes to it doesn't establish justice, I don't necessarily I think that this statement is accurate in the sense that they want to establish justice, but they want to do it through their own moral lens. I think that the more accurate way to say it would be that the pro-life movement doesn't ground justice. They're saying that this thing is wrong. They're saying that this thing is totally morally abhorrent. In like I know people who are pro-life with no exceptions, but they don't call themselves abolitionists because they're not Christian. But they're going to say that, like, the same thing that I'm saying here is that they want to see justice. They want these things to be in place to hold people accountable. But what I ask every single person who says they're pro-life with no exception is, what is your moral grounding for this? What is the grounding that you're giving here? And so I would just say that, like, the last point is that it's not that they don't want to establish justice or it doesn't establish justice. They can establish justice without the moral grounding. It's that they don't have a solid moral grounding to actually do so.
I get what you're saying on the wording on there, because they do want to establish justice, even though it is the wrong, even though it wouldn't be justice because it's not according to what God sets the standards as justice. Is that what you're kind of getting at? That they do want to establish justice, even if it's not actually. Well, would that still follow though? Because if it's not actually justice, since it doesn't go according to God's standards, and they're not doing it correctly according to what God says to establish justice, then would that still mean that they are that they want to establish justice if they don't want to do it the way God tells us to?
I feel like
I
if we're
would say
talking
that
about, just really quick, if we're talking about justice, like, it's important to talk about, which it sounds like that's kind of like what you ask them with, like, their moral grounding, because that's where, like, I don't see how, if you're leaving God, his standard, out of it, I don't see how, like, that's justice at all, is my, like, issue with it. So if the pro-life movement is like, oh, we want justice and we have the same ultimate goal, but then they're not following how God has shown justice to be established, like, how is that even justice at all?
Again,
so the reason I think that,
sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think that to address that point, I think that as Christians, the way that I view it, maybe I'm wrong, and you guys can correct me as brothers and sisters in Christ, but the way that I view it is that they're operating off of a moral framework that is built off of Christianity. It's using the morals of Christianity without calling itself Christian, without calling itself following Christ. And so when I see some pro-lifers, not all, but when I see some pro-lifers who are not abolitionists talk about abolishing abortion, the main problem is how they ground it, because if they use their religion or they use some other metric in which they're going to say that this is morally wrong, they're not grounding it in truth, but they're on the right spot. Like they're reaching the right conclusion with the wrong prescriptions. And so
Yeah.
my thing would be just that we need to guide them to Christ. We need to explain to them, like, cool, that's really cool. Like, I know a bunch of people in the pro-life community that will refuse to debate other pro-lifers that are like pro-life causal. I will actively debate pro-life causal because you've got the right prescriptions, but you're drawing an arbitrary line, and I want that to be explained. I want that to be really clear.
Well, and also, what we're talking about is, because if we do run into somebody and they're a Christian and they're pro-life, and they're like, oh, I don't give any exceptions and stuff like that, we normally tell them, well, okay, well, here's what majority of your pro-lifers believe. And I think this is what it also is the case, is majority of the pro-life movement, going off of their own words and their own statements, do not believe that women should be criminalized for any reason, and so that wouldn't be justice. That's why I know, like, and I run into certain pro-lifers that that don't believe that, and they're like, oh no, we don't give any exceptions, we don't give any of this stuff, and we need to end this according to what God says, but they still want to call themselves pro-life. Okay, but what I'm kind of dealing with is the majority of the pro-life movement that says, no, we don't want to criminalize the women, and so that wouldn't be justice, and so therefore they don't want to establish justice, because that's the majority of pro-lifers that we fight in Missouri, and what my buddies are fighting in Oklahoma, Kentucky, Texas, etc. Have been the majority of the pro-life has been, which, again, going by their own, I'm trying to be fair to them, they're going by their own written statements that are signed by, their many organizations, that they believe that no woman should be criminalized for any reason at all. She is always a victim. And so that wouldn't be justice. And so that's why again, what I'm kind of pointing at is, when dealing with the majority of the pro-life movement, they don't, they don't believe in establishing justice because of their view that they've held for what the one Samuel Lee from Campaign Life Missouri bragged at the last hearing we did for our bill when he opposed it. He said, we have always been this way, and he brought up the history of the pro-life movement. He goes, and we won't, he's like, we'll always be that way in the future too. And then he brought up all the written statements on it as well. So I think, which we have on video proof for anybody wondering on my YouTube channel. So I think that's what we're dealing with is the majority. I agree with you that there are some pro-lifers that are and that's why we do encourage them. Like, I don't come up here and a pro-lifer is, says, oh yeah, I believe we need to establish equal rights of protection under the law for the preborn children. I don't believe in any exceptions, stuff like that. I'm not sitting there blasting them, going, "Well, you're pro-life," is, And I know you know that I ain't doing that, but so I do warn them and stuff. But I think that just by that alone, the claim would still stand. Then going by the majority of the view of pro-lifers. What are your thoughts, buddy? Sorry, I know he talked a lot.
No, you're totally good. I mean, I agree. I think you would have a really fun conversation with my buddy Hex. He's a Norse pagan who holds no exceptions. He doesn't call himself an abolitionist because he's not Christian, and he understands that in order to be an abolitionist, you're going to fundamentally have to have an objective worldview outside yourself. I think you'd actually have a really fun conversation with him.
Right. Wait, I think I talked to him in the end of a conversation when he was on, I think he was on Scooter's Live, and you were there, because that's when I think we kind of first met was on Scooter's Live that one time. Yeah. I kind of jumped in on the end, and I started questioning him on it. And then they had that other guy join in and kind of diverted the conversation. And then Hex left.
It derailed the whole combo. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, oh yeah, that's right, yeah, Hex did, because he's like, oh, now there's another person, asking questions, stuff like that. Because he started asking about God's law, and I started saying that, and then, because you had a different name, and then all of a sudden, you changed it, or something like that to the Theonomist, and then that's when I was like, wait a minute, I was like, hey, are you a fellow Theonomist? Yeah, so I remember talking to him a little bit, because that was something that I immediately was like, hey, how are you grounding anything with your pagan worldview?
Yep. That's exactly what happened. Just so you know, I didn't change my name. My original name was the Theonomist when I joined the debate space.
No, I was talking about Hex. Didn't he used to have a different name?
Yeah, he did. He was Orthogon Rogue.
Yes,
and
yeah.
He was also he was also tainted before that. He was tainted before that.
Yeah, I talked to him before, and I did.
He's a mad lad.
A little bit
of mad lad, but I'm converting him. I'm converting him back. His name Orthogon Rogue was because he was Orthodox Christian, and he decided not to follow that anymore. And so I constantly talk to him and try to get him to understand like different things. We got into a theology debate the other night. I invited him in and pressed him on his position. Talking about the historical accuracy and all these other things that religion makes a truth claim. I'm relatively decent on debating these things. I'm not the best, not even close, but I press him. I'm trying to bring him back. I'm trying to bring him back into the fold. And God willing, that will happen. I really do try, because he's a good debater. Mostly. Sometimes he's a little bad faith, but for the most part, he's a good faith debater, and he has good points. He just doesn't have the grounding for the points he's making because he doesn't have God as the foundation.
Right. Yeah.
But he's an amazing dude. And he has good arguments. A lot of the arguments he makes is presupposing a Christian worldview.
Yep. Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I always enjoy conversations with unbelievers when they're when they're good faith. So That it makes the
I
conversation
get
a lot more fun.
I do get spicy in TikTok lives from time to time because I do pick fights that I deem morally worthy to do. And so I will, sometimes engage in inflammatory language. Not necessarily in the sense of like
Where's Scooter? No.
I will engage in inflammatory language. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, so just like the host says, abortion is schmurder. It's totally wrong. I think that if you decide that you don't want your child and you unalive the child, it's totally wrong. I think that you can't get past that. I think that IVF is an abomination. I think that you are bastardizing creation itself. You're playing God. And I think that that's an abomination. And I think that, the pro-life movement doesn't establish justice. When you look at that, like I said, the verbiage might be a little wrong, but it's not fundamentally incorrect. It's more of a semantics conversation, which we just talked about.
And also we were appealing to what we majority of pro-lifers. I don't know if you read their statement letters as well on what they believe, but that's what we were kind of going on, is their history and their statement letters. That majority of the pro-life movement, and backed by the millions of the pro-life individuals, on what they believe and they don't believe in. They said they will always go against our equal rights and protection bills, and they always will view the women as the victim, no matter what the circumstances. And I believe, that wouldn't be justice. And if that's what they want to establish, then they don't want to establish justice. Going by that view, I know, like, there is the other, certain people who claim to be pro-life and believe in, no exceptions and stuff like that. But I think majority that we can see, going by their statements and stuff like that, don't want to establish justice because they fight equal. They said they'll always fight equal rights and protection bills, and they will always view the woman as a victim, no matter what the circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. To address a comment, you can support a person on some of their policy, but not all of their policy. Like, that's perfectly okay. You can agree with some of the things somebody does, but not all the things. When it comes to living in a democracy, which is an entirely separate conversation on whether or not you support it. But when you do live in a democracy, you're fundamentally going to have to pick somebody. You don't have to agree with everything they do, but if the overall benefit to your society and the growth of your society is going to be benefited by one party or another, you're just going to pick that other person. That doesn't even mean that you're a supporter of them.
Yeah, I always just tell people, as a theonomist, I just say, vote somebody according to what standards God gives us in his law, in Deuteronomy 17, Deuteronomy chapter 1, and Exodus 18. And so it doesn't call for a perfect person, but it does call for them to be I would say about 10 things. And they don't require perfection. So I always just guide people on there and say that's how we should, as Christians, looking for a leader.
Yeah, I do support Trump in terms of the policies he's been putting out, the executive orders he's been putting out for the most part. Just because we disagree on abortion or we disagree on IVF, I can disagree on those things and still say that what he's doing is good. He can be a flawed person. I'm not perfect in all the things I do.
I agree with the stuff that some of the stuff that Trump has been putting in right now too. But I did not vote for him, and I wouldn't recommend people, and I didn't recommend people vote for him because he did not meet the requirements found in God's law in Deuteronomy 17, Deuteronomy 1, and Exodus 18. So that was my thing with it, because I believe there is a clear standard that God gave us for leaders. And that's why I voted. We were able to in Missouri to do a write-in, and so I wrote in Senator Dusty Devers because he's a Christian and he does want to uphold the standards. And so I believe we could have got the same kind of policies that, the good policies that Trump has been doing without the compromising with the evil that Trump is okay with. So that's,
What do you
I mean,
about
yeah,
the office?
I think that honestly though,
I'm sorry, I
think
couldn't
that-
hear you guys both.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're good. I think that Trump is setting up JD Vance for basically a layup for the next election. JD Vance is much more against abortion. He is for a federal abortion ban, and I think that he is
I thought
articulate.
he said otherwise. Is he really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I was about to say
he-
I've seen him like explicitly say that he would not support a national ban unless he's
Right,
cheating.
No.
that's what I thought too. I heard him say that. I haven't heard anything recently now that he's been in office, but when he was running up on there, that was something that I had a
Right.
issue with, was him saying that that he wouldn't, and then he was encouraging people with that Trump wouldn't either. But yeah, but I heard he went to a pro-life march recently. I know that that might not be anything because politicians will be politicians, but
well,
yeah, last
no,
I heard.
think that. Well, no. What I heard is that there are multiple historical incidences in which he has been entirely for abortion ban. I think that in order to get the office and get the space that he needs, he's not bent his views. He's subbed them down in order to get into office. I think that he's really smart. He's a great father. It's very clear by all of the evidence that we've seen. And that he is very much against abortion. And I've seen a couple of different things in which he is for a federal abortion ban. But I think that if he had gone on that route, Trump would not have picked him. So I think that what he did was he calmed what he was saying.
To get the office?
Not necessarily compromised himself. I think that he's looking out for the people around him. I think that he wants to see a federal abortion ban. And I think that the best way forward for him to get that seen was to get that office. I think that when it comes down to it.
Hold on, but didn't you say like what? I think it was you or I can't remember, but because I talked to you the other day, that we don't implement things piece by piece, right? So technically, he kind of did.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said. Can you repeat that, please?
We don't implement things piece by piece. Like we don't like take what we can get, that kind of mentality. So kind of I'm not saying listen, we're all human, but he kind of did. He compromised himself in order to get into the office where God will use him for his good pleasure, period, no matter what. But
yeah, I would disagree with that because God says that if we obey, we'll be blessed in doing so.
Sure.
And so I think that's putting. Now, God can still strike a straight blow with a crooked stick, but we're not to use that as the standard. And so I believe if that's what he's going to run on, that we have no reason to believe that God would bless that.
But if he runs on that and Trump disagrees so heavily, if Trump won't back him, that's the thing.
I think Trump is gonna. I think Trump will back him regardless. We see the way that JD Vance has handled the media. We see the way that he handles himself in conversation. We even see how he interacts with his children because he brought them to literally the whole inauguration, and even when his kids were being crazy, it's just kids being kids, and he knows that. We have a relatable stance to JD Vance as well. I haven't seen the part where he said a ban would be too extreme. That might be something I need to try to look up, and I won't, fault anybody if he said that. He said that. That's on him. I haven't seen that, from what I've read and from what I've seen, is J.D. Vance is far more of an abolitionist. He's far more for a federal ban, especially more so than Trump. And that hasn't necessarily been a hidden fact.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're right on that situation. I'd love to be wrong, and I'd love for J.D. Vance to be an abolitionist. Although I think he still agrees with the rest of the pro-life movement, with just by judging off of the people that he's been around, who wouldn't hang around him if he didn't hold to the view that women shouldn't be criminalized. Because when he was hanging around, what's her name, Kristen Hawkins or whatever her name is, because she is very adamantly against abolitionists, and she was supporting J.D. Vance. So that
Yeah, I think that's
that view.
I think a lot of the big debaters in the pro-life movement, and I would include like Charlie Kirk, I would include basically any of the major speakers, even Lila Rose, despite being a Catholic, thinks that you shouldn't be criminalized for unaliving your child. I think that those things are morally abhorrent, 100%. When I say that,
Sorry.
oh, no, you're good. What's up? What's your question?
Do you okay? So when you say that, are you talking about if the law is implemented, right? Are you saying that to mean like every woman before or after the law is implemented?
It would be after.
Okay.
It would
I
be
was just
after.
making sure.
You can't grandfather in.
Oh.
You can't grandfather in crime.
But
If
you
it
can
was
grandfather
allowed
out, right?
previously,
Like that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like if you're okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that women who got an abortion should be preemptively rounded up and put in prison. If it was something that was seen as morally okay, then realistically, we don't really have a way to hold them accountable. They're the ones that are going to have to deal with God and deal with the sin that they've committed.
Right. And our abolition bills also, they're very clear in saying that, because some people try to say, just like that's some of the things that the pro-lifers brought up for our other bills in the past. They're like, oh, they're wanting to criminalize people in the past, and we're like, well, obviously you haven't read our bill. If you read our bill, it does not say that. So it's
It makes no
So I
sense.
just want to be clear on that.
Maybe
Yeah,
like put that in like bold, because that's where I can guarantee you those who take an extreme, like they want to take your stance to the absolute extreme, so that it can fuel the fire of contention. But make sure that is in bold, because we want to be like, it's not like fair is not the right word, but I can see those who take it to the extreme to be like, well, just like people say, well, women have died because they can't get abortions,
Well, I think that when it comes to the act of abortion, we can't we can't realistically go back. This is the problem with legalism and an appeal to legality, is that even if something's morally wrong, if it was morally legal, if it was you're appealing to legality here and saying that it was legal to do this, so we did it. It's kind of hard to hold somebody liable for that standard. They're going to be held to the standard of God outside of legality, but we can't, as humans, hold them liable. So I would just advocate that the law needs to change to reflect God's morality.
Right. And it's not like
Amen.
It's legal. It's just allowed. Now, what we're seeking is for it to become illegal. But it's never been like legal. Does that make sense? It's just
Well,
allowed.
It's been legal. The issue is that
Right.
it has been legal. But legalism in itself is not moral.
Right.
Even though
Absolutely.
even though laws are based off of morality, and even though there is a tie-in to morality through legalism, if you're going to appeal to legality, you're going to have to show the moral standard outside of that legality for why the law exists.
there's a great question in the chat. She said, Kat said pro-life. Wait, no, that's the. So if we get rid of IVF, what are we doing with all the embryos?
Yeah, so we would be freeing them or having them be adopted, either one.
I'm sorry, what?
Would have them adopted out.
The embryos themselves, like to be implanted into anybody? Like, well,
Yeah, and to mothers who would be willing.
Yeah,
we
what would
wouldn't
be
we wouldn't
freeing them?
unalive them.
Well, so we wouldn't be keeping them. So our goal is that we wouldn't just
Yeah.
keep them in prison. So every single one of them that is in prison now, and some of them that might be sent off to be researched on, they wouldn't be allowed to research on them. They would only be allowed to adopt them and implant them into a mother's womb.
And she says, so you are for IVF.
No. So
No.
not for IVF, because IVF is immoral, and it's that you are playing God when it comes
Yes.
to the creation of life. We are not
That's not
for
IVF.
IVF.
Sorry,
But
Kat. She says you want to implant them. That's IVF. That is
No.
not the totality of IVF.
Yeah.
IVF
Yeah,
is removing a multitude of eggs and taking them and making multiple embryos, which are life themselves. Like they're alive and are potential human beings. And
The practice of IVF has already taken place in that situation, and now the embryos that were created through the IVF process are put into cryogenic prisons. And if we abolish IVF, we would just remove those embryos out of those prisons and give them to people who want them and want children, and pray that
But then after
they
they're all
take
gone,
Yes.
no more.
Well, hold on. So we're not taking immoral embryos. An embryo is not a
No.
moral agent.
It's just like
First
a
off,
baby that
it's not a moral agent. They're not immoral embryos.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's like to say that like we would be against IVF, like
The action,
how you're
like the
using
action to take these things.
right?
Like this is
That's like
wrong.
saying that that's just like no, that just makes no sense. I think she's just asking questions, not actually trying to understand.
Maybe, but they're good to know. Like they're good for like, especially like somebody like me, like because those are I read that question. I was like, that's a good question. You know, just to get. But what? Okay, so what would y'all like? Now this would be something. What would y'all stance be on it being like one embryo to implant? Does that make sense? Like instead of multitude.
I would say it's still morally wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
It is playing God. It is absolutely
I
playing
think
God.
creating children in petri dishes is not the way God intended us to create children. So I think it goes against God's.
Until her 90s.
I think it defies what God said inside of the role of marriage. When it comes to Christianity, and it comes to God said, be fruitful and multiply. He didn't say be fruitful and multiply with every person that you can interlink with. It was between two people. And so when we look at these circumstances and we look at how this works, we should not play God by removing parts of your body to create a child and forcibly insert it. That's playing God, and that is immoral.
Well, right, and also because God says that He is the one in control of the womb. That was like a big thing that He stresses, and a lot of so the question I always get is people are like, well, "What happens if this person can't get pregnant? What happens if this person get pregnant?" Well, I want to always pay attention to something. One of the judgments that that nations receive from God when they refuse to uphold what God's standards is one of the punishments that He immediately says is that their wombs will be barren. And so I always tell people I do believe due to a post-mill mindset as well with it. But if we start obeying God, then what is the things that God says if we obey Him? What does He bless? And one of the things that He immediately blesses, He says, is that the wombs will have children. And so like everybody's getting worried, going, look, more and more people can't have kids, more and more people can't have kids. Well, okay, well, let's maybe look at why is that? And then instead of submitting to what God says and obeying God, we try to find other ways to go around making it happen instead of just doing what we ought to do to begin with that would fix the problem.
But if she said, but we play God every day, that's the problem.
Well, that's the sin.
Huge problem.
Yeah, that's the sin, is that we don't
Exactly.
humans love control. They love to control their lives.
Yep.
And part of giving yourself up to God is saying that I'm not the maker of my destiny. I'm not the maker of my universe. I'm not the maker of anything. I am merely an agent that exists. And I am here to worship you. I am here to do my purpose. And when we fail to do that, that is what we would call sin. Failing to, like, missing the mark. You're missing the standard of God. And so when you look at these things, this is where we see sin come into place. We see this sinful nature. The sinful nature is that you want to play God. You want to control everything. You don't get to control everything. That's not how it works.
I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that I have a baby, which I like, please don't misunderstand, especially as a mother myself, like the longing in like a woman's heart to be a mother, that's something that's very pure, and it's not to be looked down upon at all. That's not what we're saying.
Sarah prayed for that for over 70 years. Over 70 years Sarah prayed for this. We look in the book of Samuel. She prayed for Samuel. She prayed and said, I will give him up to you. I want to be a mother. This is a fundamental function of my person. We see multiple instances in the Bible in which women were not given the blessing of having children until much, much later in their life. But they didn't go out of their way to say, you know what, God, you're wrong. I'm doing what I want. I'm going to pull these eggs out of me, and I'm going to force this child to exist. It was, they prayed to God, and they submitted themselves to God to the point of absolute sacrifice. That's not playing king.
Right.
Amen.
Okay, so she said, so we should get rid of all the doctors, and going to the doctors is a sin. Wait, let me finish. Hold on just a second, because yes, surgeons every time they go, okay, so doctors are playing God. Yeah, every time a surgeon goes into the OR, they play God.
No. Again, God, so our whole thing is we're basing this off of God's standards that he gives us. So God he gives us these standards to allow for doctors to bandage wounds, to do stuff like that. But he does not give us the standards to do what IVF is doing. That's our whole point, is, again, we are submitting to what we allow God to tell us how we are to run and have a true and just society. And so that's what that's based off of. But unfortunately, I have to hop down, although I was really enjoying the conversation. And I enjoy getting to talk with you, Theonomous, again, brother. Always appreciate the conversation and hearing your thoughts. Emmy, I am sorry that I didn't get to talk. Oh, hold on. Excuse me. I didn't even get to you. But you know what? Now you can wait.
I was totally kidding.
I know. I'm just joking with you. And Hemi, I didn't get to talk to you, brother, but I'm glad you're here. God bless you too. And Miranda, God bless you for running the lives. Lee already left. And who am I forgetting? And everybody else in the chat. No, I'm just kidding. A couple of sheep.
You're forgetting all the nerds on your walkout. All right, say sup, nerds. Good job.
Sup, nerds.
I'm proud to be just a nobody. Totes proud of it now, in the most righteous sense of proud, which is not actually a thing.
I mean, Cadillac. The problem is when it comes to build on what Kanoa was saying. Like the problem with doctors, that you're saying that, like, it's immoral for a surgeon to save somebody's life. The issue is like, you're saving a life. In the instance of IVF, you are purposely interfering with a natural biological process in order to do what you want. Those are two very separate things.
Right. To
So
put
what would you
like
say
a
about organ
desire.
transplant?
Oh, sorry.
I'm like, this is a, I'm not gonna lie, like her, I'm sorry, Kat, but you may be disingenuous here and just trying to pick fights, but you're teaching me things. What would you say about organ transplants?
Like, do I think organ transplants are immoral?
That's what, yeah, because that's one of the things she brought up, was blah, 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 oh my goodness.
Well, what makes IVF
Yeah.
wrong and immoral is like putting your desires
You're
above
creating life.
God, right, and God's standard. And so it's
creating
totally
life.
idolatry, and that's wrong. And that concept is laid out like exactly why it's wrong in the Bible. And so, you know, like Kanoa said, like when it's with the trying to heal, like doctors should be healers, they shouldn't be killers, and they shouldn't be playing games with children's lives, you know, to say and calling that healing. That's perverting what healing is, really.
There's a really good book by a man named Greg Bonson, and it's called By This Standard, or By What Standard. It's called By What Standard. And it's really important inside of conversations like this that are going to be emotionally heated. By what standard are you telling me that I'm wrong? Is it your personal fifis? Because if it's your personal fifis, that's not a justification. That's not a standard. If you have a means to say what is morally wrong, then we can have a conversation. But if you say that everything is subjective and nothing matters, we can't have a conversation because you can't prove your worldview to be superior to mine. And if you can, that means you have a moral worldview that you're not explaining to me.
Yep.
Like there's one standard instead of like 8 billion. That's where we mess up.
Well, there's an objective standard. That's the thing, is there's an objective standard or there's a subjective standard. There's one of the two. A subjective standard means nothing that you say matters, and it's going to result in a fundamental nihilism.
Yep.
The other side of the matter is there is an objective moralism, and if there is an objective moralism, that means there is an objective truth, and that is God.
That's right.
Jasper, you want to come up and explain how abortion is needed?
Oh, his invites are off.
Oh.
We have this.
Hello, Meta. Can we get your age for TikTok purposes, please?
Yeah, 26.
Awesome. All right. What part of the prompt would you like to address?
Oh, well, I just heard, I was just listening to you about like the subjective, objective morality stuff. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that would like conclude whether somebody can have a debate on like a normative position.
Well, okay, so we can talk about that. So when we're having a conversation about abortion, you would agree probably that it's a moral position?
Yes.
Okay, so when we get into the moral conversation, we're fundamentally going to have to say whether or not morality is subjective or objective. We're going to have to make that claim because we're going to have to ground our worldview, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why it's important to the conversation.
Yeah, but like I can posit that like pro-life could still be true under a subjective morality.
How?
Yeah, you can just posit like flow itself is still grounded under a normative ethic.
What's the ethic?
Yeah, so the ethic could just be one of one that's like a consequentialist position, right? So there is a consequence to having an abortion. The abortion is ending the life of the human being, You don't need to have a metaphysical position to necessarily state that this thing is wrong.
Well, I don't think that you necessarily have to have a metaphysical view, but your founding and your grounding are going to be a fundamentally metaethical view
Yeah,
where you
but
view something as wrong, right? So, like, if I say that abortion is wrong because it is taking of life that you do not have the right to take, and I'm grounding that in Christian ethics, and then you say it's wrong because, let's say, hypothetically, rights exist, and it's wrong because there's rights that exist that we should not interfere with. Okay, so where do the rights come from? Where do these things come from where you get to tell me something is wrong? So you're either going to operate off of a utilitarian principle, a harm principle, or fundamentally in the secular worldview, you're operating off of a principle that I'm going to drive you down a reductio.
yeah, look, like that can all be true. Like I can just posit that I would be like some kind of utilitarian, but that isn't a defeater as to why somebody needs to have like the metaphysical position, because what you were stating before is that like you can only this statement, this proposition of abortion is only wrong under an objectivist position. And it's just like I don't like clearly I don't think that's true, because there are people that are pro-life that are atheists.
Well,
Yeah,
so
but
so
that
I think that
doesn't.
we're talking. I think we're talking past each other here a minute. I'm not saying that you're operating under a subjectivist worldview that makes things wrong. I'm saying that you're operating under an objective worldview that you deem as subjective. You're saying this thing is wrong, but you don't have the moral grounding to tell me that it's objectively wrong. And
Well,
because you don't have that objective grounding, you can't tell me anything. Because
look,
you can't say that anything is definitely wrong. It's just going to boil down to your feelings.
look, like I believe in objective morality, but like I would also state that look that there is an argument for subjective reasoning, because look, like when you're stating that you believe this thing to be wrong, um you would have to like again, like we would have to go down the dialect of like of whether or not it is metaphysically possible to even have objective morality. And that's like a whole like topic. Like you would have to like prove like some empirical evidence as to like how, like where is this objective thing? What are you pointing to?
Like
And
to address a comment and your argument at the same time. A man named Zoom said, "No, it's definitely wrong subjectively. Subjectively, you can't tell me anything is definitely wrong. You can't. If you say that morals are subjective, then you fundamentally have to concede that any wrong action could be justified. You have to.
oh no, definitely. That's why I think to some extent, like subjectivity is incoherent to some extent, but whether or not the metaphysical position is like being accounted for, I'm not sure like a subjectivist can have a normative position that would state that my mental state tells me that this action itself is wrong. I might not be able to ground it any further metaphysically. It could be just be true that everything is just mind independent, but that doesn't like change that doesn't change the normative position.
Well, if you have no rationale behind your position besides my fifis, why should I even listen to your opinion?
Um, the
That
thing
you,
is,
you
or
gave a
maybe
lot of
this is
word
where you
salad
can
there.
like, maybe this is where you can enlighten me. How do you ground objective morality?
Yeah, I ground objective morality in that there is an almighty creator who created the universe, and the laws that he created inside of that universe have granted us our ability for rationale.
Okay, like, there are criticisms as to like why that is possibly like problematic. Like it seems that you are just pointing the fact that you have this state of understanding that there is a being out there and that you
Okay,
can
cool. I
ground it.
mean, well, that's fine, but what problems do you want to bring up in
Yeah,
that?
so it could just be the case that like you can say it's grounded in God or something like that, but then it would just be is subjected to your understanding because other people don't have these consistent beliefs. You would have to like affirm some kind of like argument as to prove why somebody should believe in God.
Well, it wouldn't be subjective to my belief, right? Because the thing is if it exists outside of myself, it doesn't matter how I feel. There's plenty of things inside of God's teaching in which I might want to disagree due to my human nature. But that's perfectly reasonable, even under the Christian worldview. When we look at the circumstances and when we talk about these things, it's saying that this moral framework exists whether or not I care about it. Grape is wrong whether or not I think it's cool. Graping children on the moon is wrong whether or not I feel that it's okay. So when I say that the subjective moral framework fundamentally falls to my feelings, it's that you have no grounding outside of yourself to justify these things. Yes, we could have the conversation about God, and we can have the conversation about Christianity and why that's morally true, but you can't tell me that I'm wrong just because of your feelings. And I'm not telling you that you're wrong based on my feelings. I might even agree with you, but I'm still certain that what my feelings are wrong. I'm certain that my feelings are wrong, and I need to adhere to a standard that exists outside of myself.
Look, I guess the only issue is that like for a lot of people, if that's your argument, if you're gonna ground it in God, I don't think you're gonna lead people to a pro-life position because you have to like unpack all this other stuff, such as like Christianity.
I don't want them to be pro-life. I want them to be abolitionists. Host, you're gonna have to come back soon, otherwise we're gonna get the live ended.
Sorry.
But I'm not aiming to turn people pro-life. I'm aiming to turn them into abolitionists. And if I have to defend God and defend these other stances to get them to understand, I don't actually see an issue with that. My argumentation is from God. My
Wait, but
argumentation is a blessing from God that I am going to argue for the existence of God, show why that's relevant, and show that morality exists outside of themselves.
but look, like as somebody that is pro-life, don't you think it would be more beneficial to like make people at least not think of abortion having like is a correct thing? Because if you have to unpack all this other stuff, you're it seems like it'd be better for them to move pro-life than just like or have that normative position rather than having all these other positions. For me, I would at least hope that the action itself would decrease rather than have somebody completely uproot every belief they have, as long as that normative position is instilled.
So the problem is that
So what's the difference between Schmerz, like,
you're good. Just from a subjective worldview, if you're coming to the pro-life movement from a pro-choice side, and we look at these circumstances, as abolitionists, we're going to say that the pro-life movement is still corrupted. We don't operate on incrementalism. We don't say that it's slightly better that they don't think they should unalive their kids. in most circumstances, we say it's wrong to unalive your offspring. In all circumstances, it's wrong. You should not do that. That is objectively a wrong thing. And so when we look at this, just because you're trying to give us a concession, and just because you're trying to give us the concession of, well, in most cases, kids shouldn't be unalived, you have to justify why in some cases kids should just be unalived.
Look, I don't even believe that there are good reasons for having an abortion, right? But like there could be like a reason such as like the medical
Nope.
exception, right? Would you at least agree to that one?
What medical exception?
Yeah,
And
the
there
mother,
should be
the
exceptions to everything that no, there should be exceptions to everything that's illegal. There should be exceptions to murder. Then there should be exceptions to rape. Like that, you get down a slippery slope. Then
I mean, look, like there's exceptions for murder. It's called like self-defense. We do
capital
that.
punishment
Okay,
is not.
so
That's
inside of
wrong.
abortion,
That's not schmurder.
Yeah,
That
if
they are
it's
not the same thing.
inside of abortion, what medical condition requires the mother to unalive her offspring prior to removal?
Yeah, look, I don't have the technicality, but like I can just posit that there is a logical condition, or like there's
That would
a
be
like a logically possible world where somebody is in need
there's
of a like some kind of like emergency surgery that either
You
ends
you
the life
can't
of the baby
you
or ends
can't
the life of the mother.
logically. Well, no. If you say there's no way that I can think of that would make this true, but it logically posits that this could be true, that's not logic.
Wait,
I'm
wait,
asking
what
you.
is the
I'm asking
not being?
you. Yeah. So I'm asking you. When it comes down to it, what medical condition requires that you unalive the offspring prior to removal?
Look, like I've already stated, like I don't need to give you like a definite like condition. I could just say, look, the life of the mother is at risk.
that's
If she would die.
Yeah. So
What?
the life of
You're missing the question.
people in general. Yeah. The life of people in general are at risk, right? I could go outside and get hit by a bus. Okay. Like the risk is a fundamental part of living. That's not necessarily a descriptor of pregnancy, which is a biological process that is going to happen should the necessary conditions be met. But what I'm asking you is what risk to the mother is a qualifying factor to unalive your child?
Yeah, the risk would be just the risk to her life. If she was like logically speaking, she would just like die if she didn't have like this ending of the life of the fetus.
Yes, I understand that. So what exactly in this process that you're talking about, what condition would require that the mother literally unalive her own child prior to removal?
prior to birth or being or C-section.
Yeah, exactly. Like prior to a early induction, what would require this mother to
Intentional.
what would require her? Yeah, you got to intentionally unalive this child. What medical condition can you give me that requires they unalive their child?
Yeah, look, I probably don't have one on top of my head. I'm pretty sure there could be one, or maybe you're right, maybe there isn't one. But like I would still like say like
There's not one, and it's okay to say there's not one.
yeah, like I stated, it could be possibly the case that there isn't one. But logically speaking, I can posit that there is such thing that could end the life of a mother.
How can you logically posit that if it doesn't exist?
Like when we're speaking in modality, you don't like something just has to be like not violate certain laws of logic. Like is like that's all what I'm saying about logically possible.
Oh my goodness. Do you see how like logic means more to you than
I
life
mean
in
the
this
whole
instance?
dialectic in regards to like pro-life is a logical one. When you're positing a metaphysical or even a normative position in regards to like why something is wrong, you're necessarily using logic itself to make sure you're not falling under contradictions to like prove your point.
Was that even like English?
There, but if you
What
stand on
we're
the side of
asking you though,
life, there's
right?
no, it
And
didn't make any
Miss,
sense. But if you stand on the side of life,
So like
then
you
there is
could
no logic
posit a
needed.
hypothetical that a woman's like hanging off of a cliff by a rope that's tied around the waist of her newborn,
that
and to
wouldn't make
save her
sense.
life she has to like lop the rope, dropping her newborn. Like that's still going to be an immoral action that she's doing to save her life. So like, you know, you can talk in like these hypotheticals, but even within that, that's still an immoral action that she's committing.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the immoral action again?
If she's hanging off of a cliff by a rope, the bottom of the rope's tied around the waist of her newborn, and the only way to save her life is to lop the rope and drop the newborn so that she can save her life. Her lopping that rope, she's still murdering her child. That's still an immoral action that she's committing, even though she's doing it to try to save her life. And I would like, a lot of mothers would absolutely never do that. They would put the life of their child before their own. And that's a Christian virtue. That's a godly virtue that
Yeah,
mothers
like
have.
that could be true, but and I mean, probably it's best, but those are just like value propositions.
How is that a value proposition?
Yeah, you're just telling me what somebody would prefer.
No, she literally told you it would still be immoral. It's not a what somebody would prefer.
Yeah, but the
And
action itself,
what would determine it to be like moral or immoral is, what does God say
look,
about
like
those sort of situations?
I believe in all that stuff
And
too,
the
but
Bible
like,
says that there's no greater love that a man has for his friend than to lay down his life for his friend. That's
yeah,
what
but
God
look,
says.
not
And
everybody's gonna
God says,
adopt.
love your neighbor as yourself. And you keep saying, not everybody's going to do that's a load of baloney. Because the Bible says in Romans that God's written his law on our heart. And when people reject his truth, but yet they still function as if he does exist, they're just suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. That doesn't mean that they have any ground to stand on.
Look, to some extent, I agree, but the problem that you're positing is that not. I would just say, look, like it's just trivially true that there are people that are not gonna agree with your like worldview, and I would still hold that
Sure.
it is better for everybody to like be pro-life and not kill the being
No, what's
regardless.
better is that they become a Christian. And that's why, as abolitionists, we share the gospel and we argue and engage biblically. Because we have obligations as Christians that when someone is suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, that we take every argument captive and defeat it using the Bible, using the weapons that God has given us.
Wait, do you think there's no like pro-choice Christians?
That's just a contradiction right there in and of itself.
No, it like you said, like is this
Do I
logically
think
possible?
that
Now
they
you're using
exist?
contradiction. That's a logically loaded term.
Do I think that they exist? Yes,
Hmm.
but they would be contradicting themselves.
Yes, absolutely. I would say that too. But the issue is that there could be you can still have somebody adopt a Christian ethic, a Christian worldview, and they might still be like pro-choice. So like you only achieved one of your virtues, but the issue is that you're still like pro-choice, which I think is a greater evil.
I don't
I
even know
don't.
what you're talking about. Like,
Yeah,
you're
I
not
don't know
even
what the
like,
point of that was.
you said you're a Christian?
Yeah, I'm Catholic. Yeah,
Oh. Well, you've got bigger problems on your plate with that.
yeah,
And
but I
the abolitionist movement is a Protestant movement. We're sola scriptura.
I mean, a sola scriptura has its own issues, but like,
So
uh,
if you're saying that like this Catholic person is pro-choice, that's where the argument would go, that we would have to operate under their worldview and have the deeper discussion into that worldview, because they need to be following the Word of God, because the Word of God's infallible, and it's it's the authority, that the ultimate authority. It's God's Word.
my whole problem is like, do you see that there is a problem? Like, you would rather have somebody become Christian only for them still to be pro-choice.
No.
No.
No, I'd rather them
Depends on
become
what you guys
Christian
got.
because it's the best thing that could ever happen.
Right, because God's the only
Pro-choice,
one who changes people's hearts and minds.
exactly,
And that's why like it's
exactly.
so important to give the gospel because
Yep.
ultimately we can give them the most like philosophically adept and logical argument, and their mind won't be changed and they're still on a path of destruction by rejecting God.
Wait, look, like prior, I've always had a like belief, or to some extent, that there was exceptions, right? But like I still think like before I turned Catholic, that the only reason I became pro-life, or like I thought abortion was immoral, was because of logical reasonings. My belief came
So
after.
you don't give that credit to God Himself, like that.
Right.
So you
Look,
like you decided for yourself. It wasn't anything to do with
Like where do you think
His
logic
standards.
comes from?
Yeah.
yeah, like maybe like under like a whole like worldview, maybe I could give this credit to God that I achieved this knowledge or logic. But prior to that, I had no belief in a God, right? So like,
Gotcha. Okay, and you still thought pro-choice was. I'm sorry. You still thought pro-choice was wrong. Is that what you're
yeah,
saying?
yeah, because I
Okay.
used to think pro-choice was like, oh, like I didn't care about like the position of pro-choice, pro-life, but through logic, I was able to reach the pro-life conclusion, and then slowly start unpacking my beliefs.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
that
wouldn't
would
say
be a
that.
common grace
Yeah.
from God, not something that
Not logic.
you came up on your own.
Right.
Like God works even through unbelievers. Like
Yes.
he's not
Third
limited to
day.
just the believers.
yeah, and that could be true, and I'm open to those ideas, but
No,
like,
that is true. That's what God's
Yeah, I
word
was gonna
says.
say, take
yeah,
comfort in that. That is actually capital T true.
yeah, and but you like the whole thing is that I would still want people to move to a pro-life position, even if they don't have to adopt Christianity, because
We all
I
we all do.
Well, okay, so hold on a second. We would give the gospel first because that's what God's word calls us to do. Because if we say like all these facts to a pro-choicer and they're like, "Okay, now I'm pro-life." And we didn't give them the gospel and God forbid something happened to that person and they get in a terrible car accident and they unalive. Their blood, biblically speaking, is on our hands because we did not warn them. We did not give them the gospel. So it's pointless to go forth and to try to switch people out of their pro-choice um, thoughts and ways if we're not leading with the gospel first.
Right, because our object in having these conversations should be to glorify God, not ourselves. So if you're saying that like you'd rather work at this like backwards, I would just ask you like who are you aiming to glorify doing it that way exactly?
yeah, like prior to my belief in God, I didn't have this, I guess, goal or aim to like glorify anything. I was just more, I guess, wanting to believe the logical conclusion of my, I guess, my beliefs of like, if this is like coherent, such as like, um, because I used to take that life began at consciousness, right? And then I believed in the past, present, future conjunct argument. But then I realized that those led to some absurdities, such as like the ones that Peter Singer posits, where he says that
Like an
a
example.
child, a newborn, can like is not conscious. so
Yeah.
they're not worth worth moral consideration, right? So those are some absurdities. I had to be like, okay, like this seems extremely absurd, so I can't hold this position. Um, and that's
Yeah.
where I became pro-life. And then I started slowly unpacking my other atheistic or secularist views because it seemed to also lead to certain contradictions or absurdities that I didn't logically want to adhere to.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what you just said.
Well,
I think
yeah,
that's great that like that's how your path went, but to not give people the gospel now that you have the truth of the gospel, it's like Leah said, you're doing like these non-believers a disservice by not telling them the truth, and you're failing a very clear obligation that scripture gives us as Christians when engaging with non-believers.
well, yeah, like I think to this point, I think we've hit bedrock. I think I agree to an extent with you guys. I just don't. I rather have somebody like believe in like maybe the abolitionist or the pro-life movement prior to having like this full conversion into Christianity.
Yeah, that's crazy to say. Just like to put it bluntly, that's totally absurd. Because you're saying that like you would rather them follow man than God.
Well,
And I don't know where the Bible says that.
yeah, like it doesn't clearly, but I just rather people stop aborting children than
Well,
than
we would rather people to follow Christ because through following Christ, they'll stop aborting children and their souls will be saved.
I mean,
And
look,
if you care about
The way that
justice, you shouldn't be like advocating for the pro-life movement as a Christian whatsoever. Because they do not give justice to these children at all. Not at all. I don't know
I
if you're
mean,
aware of this or not, but the pro-life movement, the grand majority, they've signed a letter. These organizations, the top like 70 organizations, pro-life organizations, signed a letter making it explicit that they have no intention ever of criminalizing women for the act of abortion.
look, have you heard of like those positions like um about like child corn and if you could in a sense stop all that child corn, would you just do that incrementally opposed to like just like you would have to first what's it called, ban all porn, but
corn,
oh,
corn,
sorry, my bad,
corn.
corn, my bad. Yeah, you would have to ban first um all of corn, and then the thing would be that you could not, like, I guess, ban the child corn with it.
Yeah, that would be wicked. And the
Yes,
Bible says that woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees, who make the fatherless their prey. So God would hate a law like that.
so you would, so you
God's very
wouldn't, so
clear
you
that it's
wouldn't
justice,
ban child
justice,
corn.
and only justice. It all should be abolished. That should be abolished.
Now that I would say that is absurd, right? Because
According to what standard? Because I'm using the Bible and God's standard. So what standard are you using?
What's
uh,
absurd? Hold on. What's absurd is that these bills keep being put forth and then they're knocked down by the incrementalists. That's
Right.
what's absurd. We're putting forth these bills saying, let's end this immediately right now. All glory to God. And they're like, people aren't ready for that. Let's take baby steps when it comes to murdering children. That's
I
what's absurd.
yeah, I mean, there could I'm not well read on the pragmatics I just know that there are logical issues. And from what you guys told me right now, like I think most people don't have these intuitive thoughts about like to ban child corn, we would have to first ban all corn. That just to me is
And we
absurd.
should.
Why is it absurd to ban all corn?
Yeah, because I rather it's not that I like I
Well,
would
here's the
rather
thing: is if you,
like end
yeah,
child corn even if it is at the risk of not banning all corn.
But if you ban all corn, then child corn is going to go away.
it's already
Like,
illegal. How can you?
Yeah.
It's
That is
already
true, but
illegal.
like
yeah.
under your framework, you would say that you would prefer that all corn be illegal first, but at the risk.
Yes. No, it's already illegal. Child corn is already illegal. How is banning all corn going to,
Yeah, like
like, that seems
maybe
a little
my
silly.
language. So
I'm not
like
trying
when
to
I
be
say
rude, I
all corn, I
promise, but
mean like
it
all
seems a
like
little silly.
adult corn. Yeah, adult corn. But you
All
would
of it.
have to lump in.
Yes.
Yeah,
Every
you would
bit of
have
it.
to
Yep.
lump in like child corn there.
How can you lump in something that's
Um
already illegal?
again, this is not talking about like the law. This is just talking about the logical I guess hypothetical that I'm positing.
Okay. Well, murder is already illegal, but yet it still happens. I'm just saying that it's kind of an it's kind of a cow's opinion. It's a moot point,
No,
and
yeah, but
like
just like
that makes no sense. It makes no sense to ban all corn so that child corn won't happen anymore when child corn is in itself an atrocity and absolutely wicked. But to sit there and say,
yeah,
well,
so
all
like
corn's
the
banned, so
whole
no
point
more
is that
child corn. What?
I mean, it seems that you would advocate that if all the corn is not banned, we wouldn't care if there's still child corn. Now, this isn't a hypothetical world where it is um, legal to get. You would still like say, look, I rather keep the child corn intact if the rest of the corn is still there. We want to ban all the corn, not just go incrementally.
That's what but that's like, hold on. So you're okay. So are you arguing for like incremental implementations,
To
or are
some
you
extent, yeah.
arguing like
Yeah, he would be.
oh, okay. Well, that'd be
It's crazy because like
it's weird
corn,
to implement
it's
something.
corn,
Yeah, sorry.
abortion. It's wicked. It's always
All of it.
wicked. In the eyes of God, it's wicked. So, in saying like you think it would be better to just like incrementally control wickedness, I would again ask you where you are getting that standard to make that claim, because it goes against God's word and God's standard.
Exactly.
Look, like
It's okay to stand. It's okay to stand 10 toes down in the standards in which he set out. In fact, it is he smiles on it. Like that is what courage looks like, is to stand in his standards, whether you stand alone or not, because you're not alone. But to make it like a base by base, or a case by case basis, and to say, well, there could be this and could, where does that say it? Where does it say that in the word? Like, where is that at?
yeah, I
Because
mean,
if you're going to waffle between your quote unquote morals because of your logic, then you kind of play in God, man.
look, I think this is where we just finally like just hit bedrock. Is because like I just have a different
Hey, he is
perspective
the
on how
rock at the
somebody.
bottom. He is the rock at the bottom. So you're good.
Yeah, like look, I'm comfortable with that position, but like I would just like have a non-believer like, because it seems to me way harder for a non-believer to convert to like Christianity than somebody is to like convert to like pro-life or like the belief that abortion itself is wrong. It
Hard.
just seems like
What do you mean when you say like it's way harder? When you say that, like what are you talking about there?
yeah, so like somebody like there are plenty of atheists or secular pro-lifers or people that believe abortion is wrong. Um, they don't have to adopt this whole other framework of belief just to see that abortion is a moral wrong.
They don't. I'm so sorry. Can you repeat that one more time? I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so it like there are secular individuals that believe abortion is wrong. It just seems that it is harder for them to like um take in like the framework that Christianity is true rather than having the belief that abortion is wrong.
I would argue that without belief in Jesus, then like wickedness we're slaves to it. So one would never like, yes, maybe like, but that would be I guarantee you the people who believe it, and I don't mean any disrespect here. I can guarantee you those people who are pro-life, who are not believers, are those who stand in arrogance of their moral superiority. That's the right
Mm.
word.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can agree to an extent, right? But yeah, I think I'll just hop off of this one. I think I kind of
Sorry,
clarified
Meta.
what I was trying to like
Could
convey.
could I say something though? Just one last thing is you kept saying, well, I don't think that there's a good reason for abortion, but I can see logically how there could possibly be. But yet I can't articulate to you, or I don't know of such a case. How about instead of saying that, instead of even in the slightest bit condoning said thing, like stand 10 toes down, and then if something does, and it won't, but be secure in standing in what you know is right. There's it is it's hard, but it's so much more rewarding than saying, well, I don't believe in this, and I know that the word doesn't say this, and I know that God is not okay with this, but maybe you can sway me. Like that's dangerous. So I just maybe like seek him out on that, and you know but never be afraid to say no, it's wrong. And until you can give me an actual example or case that is completely opposed to it, I'm going to stand in no, it's wrong.
All right, well, yeah, I'll think about it definitely, but all right, I'll let you guys be.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Meta.
Very strange. But that's what happens like with these conversations is I think a lot of times people get so caught up in the philosophy that they ignore what is right in God's
Right.
eyes. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because you'll always okay, let's go outside. You'll always come across yeah. You'll always come across somebody who knows more philosophy, and it's
Oh,
just not worth
absolutely.
it. That's where like put God first.
Yep, and let everything, he will make sure everything else falls. When I tell you, you put him for, he'll make sure everything else falls in place. And you won't have to do any work because he is one who wills us, and he wills us to do for his good pleasure. Like it's on him after.
Yep, for His
That's
glory,
why,
not for ours. It's not
yep,
about like winning a debate or being, like hitting all the
yeah, being
buzzwords.
right. Yeah, because I can guarantee you, we're all wrong, and we all have been wrong.
Facts.
How about my Sharky?
I'm running donuts into my kids real fast. I'm gonna be here, but I'll be right back. I can still hear everything though.
Okay, no worries.
I'm here. I'm just figuring out um broken limbs.
Are you
Good
gonna
grief.
take him to go see that urgent care
Yeah.
person?
Yeah. I'm just
You're
getting
figuring out what?
off. I think one of my kids broke their wrist.
Oh,
We thought it was a sprain, and he hurt it yesterday, but we put it in a brace in a sling. And then this morning he was like, I can barely even move my fingers. So
mm.
um, I'm trying to figure out um, where I'm leaving two of my kids while I take the one to the doctor's office, or they might just all come with me, and it just might be a crap show. It's
Woohoo!
totally fine.
I don't. I think you would. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if the dark stuff like ER. I would go there. I think they might send you to a ER anyway.
Well, there's a orthopedic urgent
Oh,
care
never mind.
out
Who
here,
do I
yeah.
do? Who do
So
I know?
because I was really close to going to the ER, and then I called around and I was like, is there anywhere out there that is not going to cost me like $1,500 to walk into an emergency room? This is just crazy.
Right?
Um, and then I found that urgent care, and I was like, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
so
papers you sign cost at least $100.
seriously,
Hmm.
that is the truth. So, anyways, Miranda, are you going to restart?
Um, I'm like undecided. Because my kids are so chaotic. I might wait until she takes a nap, but if hubby's getting done with work pretty quickly today, then I might not be able to. So
Yeah.
I might just play it by ear
Yep.
and see. Unless somebody wants to request up, if anybody disagrees, bam bam.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to talk to that dude.
Yeah,
He's concerning.
he seems a little unhinged.
He seems
But
concerning.
he is,
I'm concerned about some of the stuff he has said.
I haven't been watching the whole conversation.
Well, he asked where in the Bible God says corn is wrong.
What?
Yeah.
Sexual immorality.
I
The
just
Bible
read how
definitely
he said
talks about that.
he said this is sounding more like a personal hatred of something. I can't find it now. But that's sad that because it goes against it's not hatred. It's actually like that's so sad. Sorry.
He said, "Yay, I'm concerning." Oh my goodness.
You
Yeah, I
have made
just
the list, sir.
when somebody asks questions like that, I'm just concerned that they're probably partaking in the act.
Yeah. It's really hard for especially men in the culture being so secular. I mean, they can't go like hardly anywhere without that sort of stuff just being right in their face.
Yeah. I
But
mean, and
there's
and
hope.
corn, um, it's just what the reality is young girls, even if they're portraying them to not be young girls, they are young girls.
Yeah. Yep. If you start like going down the rabbit hole of like all that goes into like the corn industry, and like a lot of times it's underage girls that are being trafficked, who are being coerced into that. There's been so many stories over the years of like girls coming out and saying, yeah, that I was not of any age of consent, which I don't know how that makes it somehow okay when there's like financial bribes that can be involved with that preys on like women, making them commodities. And it's just really bad. It's really, really, really bad. And it's wicked. And with wickedness, God doesn't compromise with that. And so, and to be an abolitionist, it's not just in regards to abortion, it's to any wickedness under God's standard.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Bam Bam.
Not harmless. I'm sorry. Like,
then you hadn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
Haven't said a word against you, so
No,
I
no,
don't
no. She
understand
No,
why
wasn't.
not
you're
you,
here.
not you, Bam Bam. Sorry, it was somebody. It's something in the comments. Sorry, not you.
Yeah, she was talking to Nick Town in the chat. So, first of all, are you an adult just for TikTok purposes?
Yes, I'm an adult.
Okay, lovely. And which prompt are you wanting to talk about?
I kind of want to talk about what we were just talking about then with the corn industry.
Okay. Well, do you think that the
So,
corn industry, there's nothing wrong with it?
sorry?
Do you think that there's nothing wrong with the corn industry?
There's nothing wrong with the corn industry.
Okay, what grounding do you have to make that sort of claim?
Can I ask you, do you think there's anything wrong with the soda industry?
I haven't made a claim about the soda
Yeah, but
industry.
I'm putting it
But you
to you
said
right
that
now.
the corn industry is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Why
No,
you
there's
have an
nothing wrong.
echo? I hear myself. It's unpleasant.
There's nothing wrong with the corn industry.
Yeah. So how do you substantiate that claim?
Why do you think there's something wrong with it, though?
We've made it pretty clear that we're getting our moral claims grounding from God. I'm asking for your grounding, though, not mine, because clearly you disagree. But you're making this claim, and so I'm just wondering what grounds you're standing on to make that claim.
Well, where does God say the corn industry is wrong?
Dude, do you just not have an answer for my questions? Because I'm not like this is like supposed to be an open conversation. And if you
No,
can't answer the
I'm
very first
agreeing to what you're
question
saying. I'm
that
just
I'm
saying.
asking you, you're not. You said you made the claim that there is nothing wrong with the corn industry. And I'm
There's
asking
nothing.
you how you're
There's
able to make
nothing
that
wrong
sort
with
of
the corn
claim.
industry because it feeds into a society need.
Okay,
For
so society
yes,
determines things to be right or wrong?
yes, that's the entire basis of our human existence is society.
Okay, so society, sorry, my battery's thing. So society is always right in what they deem to be okay.
Society's not always right, but society understands what's happening and moves forward and changes what they believe to be right. 400 years ago, it was society agreed that you could marry a 13-year-old. Today,
Right,
no,
and
it's not
society
right.
was wrong. So
Yeah,
if
so
they can be
society
wrong,
evolved
how are
and
you
moved forward.
verifying that your claim that society says that corn is okay? How are you verifying that claim to be the correct one?
I'm not saying it's a correct one. I'm saying society found a need, corn filled it.
But you're not
Need for what?
explaining how that makes it right.
So let me put it this way to you. Let's say corn didn't exist. How do you expect people to relax?
I find nature very relaxing. Walking in
Sorry?
nature, enjoying God's creation, that's very relaxing. Enjoying time with your husband or wife, it's very relaxing.
Yeah, okay. So there's 8 billion people on the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and about 4 billion of them don't have husbands or wives.
Mm-hmm.
How do they find relaxation or relief?
Well, Paul says that if you burn with passion, you should get married. So they should probably do that.
So your argument is if I want release, I should just go out and find a wife no matter what.
you should find a wife to.
Finding a wife is a good thing.
Like, is that a crazy concept to you, to like not treat women like objects to fulfill your
Right.
desires, instead
To practice
invest in them
self-control.
and marry them and protect them? That's a crazy concept to you?
So if I went out right now and grabbed a girl and said, "You're now my wife," because I can't watch corn, that's acceptable?
So I think if you're seeking out relationships with women only for your own selfish gain, you should probably reevaluate why you're being selfish like that and being controlled by your flesh in that way. And I mean, I can tell you why. It's because you need Jesus, like we all do. And so you should repent of that sexual immorality that your flesh has.
I'm not looking
And he can
for
help
a
you
boyfriend like that.
with that.
I'm looking at the fact that I've worked in the sex industry and I've seen girls there who honestly want to portray themselves in that industry, who want to excel themselves.
Yeah, but
so you allow it. Like, that's the thing, is even they, instead of protecting them, you say, hey, whatever makes you happy. That's the problem with the world.
What the hell was that answer? Why am I protecting them?
It wasn't an answer, it was a statement. Instead of protecting those women, you said, hey, you do you, boo-boo, whatever makes you happy. Instead of standing up like we're supposed to, and like literally stand as an intercessor. Like,
so your argument
you have a
is
daughter?
that if a girl
Do you
turns
have a
around to you and
child?
says, "I want to do what I want to do in my life," I should turn around and cuddle them and say, "No, no, no, you don't do this. You go."
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
well, that's what you said.
Don't be a part of it.
As a man, you should be trying to protect women.
Protect.
Not like.
That is your.
Sorry.
You know how awesome that is, to be able to be one that can protect those. Do you know how many women like wish that a man, like, oh my goodness, you're in such an awesome position, but instead of protecting, you facilitate. Not you, not I'm not trying to point at you, but you did tell us that. Like, I understand that, but so you said that women, so
I
many
really
women,
don't
you know,
think you understand what the
this is
corn
how they want
industry
to
is.
portray themselves. But if somebody wanted to grate somebody, would you say, hey, that's what they wanted to do?
You really don't understand what the corn industry is.
That's so not true.
Sure
You
do.
clearly don't understand what the corn industry is because it benefits you.
Yep.
And that's gross. That's disgusting. You should stand up for the women and children that are being exploited with their bodies. You should stand up against that. Because you getting your rocks off, like, at the expense of women and children becoming commodities, is disgusting and selfish, and you shouldn't do that. And to stop doing that, you should repent.
If you look at any corn production company out there right now, all of them will tell you the amount of times that they've had young, naive girls rock up and they've all turned around and said, "No, this is not for you. You need to walk away."
Well, do you have like statistics on that, or are you just saying like you've seen a few stories of that?
I mean, I can get statistics for you in like maybe 20 minutes, but
that's what I thought. So if you're going to make claims like that, you better be able to prove them. So it's just.
Well,
I would just this is the problem, is like you have bigger fish to fry, because of course you think that this is like okay because you're an atheist, right?
What's that got to do with
Again, it does benefit you.
Because you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. So of course, suppressing that truth, you're gonna fill in the blank in any way that you possibly can to justify your sin rather than repenting.
Am I suppressing?
The truth of God. What do you mean? What are you suppressing? God's existence. You're suppressing it, but then you're stealing from it by even making any sort of moral claim at all, but you have no grounds to make any sort of claims like that. The echo is tripping me out. It's probably your Bluetooth, but it's fine.
So your argument is fake man in the sky said no, so I can't do it.
What's your argument that he's fake?
What's your argument that he's real?
What's your argument that he's fake?
No. What's your argument?
It's like, how old are you? How old are you?
No, I want to know.
Because you're acting like a little kid. You're acting like a little kid who I'm like, hey, you can't have ice cream. And they're like, why can't I have ice cream? You can't have ice cream.
I know your religious argument that you just ask questions. So I'm flipping it back to you.
I'm asking a perfectly fair question of you.
And I'm asking a question back. What is your
fake.
argument that God is real?
I make a transcendental argument for God.
What is your argument that God is real? What is your argument that God is real?
Holy cow,
without God, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation.
Yep.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, because without God, you can't know anything. You can't know anything. Without God, there is no knowledge or logical reasoning.
So your argument is that God is knowledge. So explain to me why I have knowledge without God.
That's what you would have to explain. Goodness.
Well, I mean, libraries, society.
What did you say?
Libraries, society.
Libraries? A book a man wrote? No, I'm just joking.
So you guys have no argument whatsoever.
No, I can give you one, Bam Bam, if you want me to. Leah, unless you want to go ahead.
No, I'm about to go. I have to drive now, so I'll see y'all around.
Okay, bye. I'll be praying for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Bam Bam. You want the argument?
What's your argument, man?
It's just a simplified version of the transcendental argument. So God is the necessary precondition for truth, reasoning, logic, and knowledge. We have knowledge, therefore God is the case. Okay? That's the argument.
What was the argument's name that you made?
Transcendental argument. Okay, so in order for you to know things, God is necessary, right? And he's necessary in the way... I have a crazy echo. I don't know who it's coming from. If it's Bam Bam, I think it's probably him.
But apparently it's me.
Yeah, dude, you sound like... It's
it ain't me.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing... I don't hear an echo.
You don't hear... maybe it's me. I don't know.
I hear it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you have to talk, and I think then you'll hear it. But, yeah, Precept, you want to give it to him? Actually, you're better than I am. So if you're down, you can go ahead.
Well, but if you want me to, so
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, basically the idea is that we could take a lot of things. I don't know what's the simplest way to explain it. That's the thing I struggle with. Basically, there has to be sort of a logical consistency in the world, and there has to also be a physical consistency in the world that is created by God. It makes sense that there's going to be logical and physical consistency because God would endow the world to be that way. And if you deny that, you can explain those things which would be necessary for knowledge, truth, science. So there's a necessary relationship. You don't have to believe in God you can know things, but we'd say the fact that you know things proves that Christianity is true because any other non-Christian starting point would make knowledge impossible. So that's how the argument would go.
Are you there, Bam Bam? He disappears as soon as he gets the argument.
Watching corn.
Oh my god.
You know, the Native Americans called corn maize, and it was really sexy.
Yeah,
That was a joke. That was a
Jerry,
bad
that's
joke.
you
ridiculous.
should probably look
That
at
was
the
a terrible joke.
probability. You should look at the He should look at the probability of how many women on there or girls on there are
Are you
actually
guys not
age of
hearing me
18.
here, or you guys?
Oh yeah, Bam Bam. I'm sorry. When your coffee cups, like when you're out of the app, we can't hear you.
Yeah, we can't hear you. Did you hear?
That was the stupidest.
Yeah.
That
Did
was
you
the
hear?
stupidest argument I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, really?
Hey,
So go
yay,
ahead,
there's
go ahead
insults.
and
I
give us
love
the
that, Bam Bam. You ask to be treated with respect, but yet you deny it to others. That's pretty
Bam
crappy.
Bam. Go ahead and give the rebuttal. Then, if it's stupid, it should be easy to beat, right?
Okay, so how do you explain Hinduism?
Address the argument, Bam Bam.
I just did.
Precept and I both
You
gave
just
you
brought up that
an argument. Address it
transcendental
and give the rebuttal.
bullshit explains Christianity. So how do you explain Hinduism?
Oh, did you have to Google the transcendental argument so you could have like a basic understanding of what it is? Because you were gone for a little while.
Yeah, that's what I did. Why can't you?
So yeah, tell us how you can know anything with 100% certainty.
See, you can't answer the
Tell
question.
us how you can know things and then
Answer the
ground the
question.
things that you say. Bam, listen, man. You need to address the argument.
Just did.
We're not here to play games with you today. Like nobody has
Weird to
time
me
to
how-
listen to you just waffle.
Jesus
It is
Christ,
weird
can
to
you
me
answer
how
the
it-
question I made, or are
Wait.
you just going to keep talking bullshit?
Bam
Yeah,
Bam.
we gave
It
you
is
the
weird to me how
Go ahead and
you
address
acted.
it.
You're acting so much different when a man's talking to you. Like you're almost offended. You were treating myself and Miranda and Leah like not super great, but you weren't degrading us and insulting.
Can you just,
I am
Bam
so
Bam, can
sorry
you
to
just,
you poor little people. I will stay quiet. Would you like to explain again? And I will explain my other side.
okay, go ahead, Precept. Go over it one more time for him.
So for knowledge to be possible, there needs to be sort of like a logical consistency, or like also like a physical consistency to the world. And God would like explain, the Christian God explains like this consistency that's like necessary for knowledge. If you deny the Christian God, you can't explain like basically the observable data, the things that are necessary for knowledge, the necessary preconditions for knowledge. To like basically like the Christian God would be our standard or criteria of like how to determine what's true or false. So like what would be your standard for truth that's like not the Christian God? It'd be like someone's opinion, right? You wouldn't have a standard of truth.
Can I respond now, or is everyone going to jump in and start saying horrible things about
Come
me?
on, man.
No,
Bam
go
Bam.
ahead. We'll let you engage
genuine.
just with Precept if you like.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. What defines a Christian God?
The Christian God, he defines himself.
So why does a Christian God get involved with an equation about how we are? What about a Hindu God? What about an Islamic God? What about a Jewish God?
Yeah,
Why is it the Christian God that is involved?
Because only the Christian God has like the perfect attribute set, and that attribute set to even make an argument. So none of the other gods can provide the necessary preconditions to even argue anything.
So your argument is, I'm going to use the best version of a fake deity to prove my equation.
No, it's like, if knowledge, then God. We have knowledge, therefore God. So it's a modus ponens, right? There's a necessary relationship between the Christian God and knowledge. So denying the Christian God becomes impossible, because that would be like a knowledge claim to deny the Christian God. So you'd have to, because like, think about it. You couldn't, how would you explain, I don't know. because it's hard to explain this
I
without
can
getting
explain knowledge. It's
philosophy.
4.5 billion years of evolution and
No, but
humanity passing on knowledge to each other to the point that
no,
we are here now.
no, but because we could have evolved to think inaccurately, right?
We could have evolved to become crabs.
Evolution just accounts for like traits that help you survive, but it could be the case that like incorrect logic or incorrect sense data helped us survive better. So it doesn't explain, it doesn't get us to truth. Like, but if God designs your mind and God designs your senses and designs the world, then it makes sense that our minds, our concepts, and our sense information accurately reflects like an external world.
So your argument is that you could look at the fact that humanity has built itself over millions of years and become the brilliant, beautiful minds that we have. Your argument is, nah, someone did that to us. Isn't it more beautiful to understand that we built ourselves through evolution? Every other animal
but that doesn't
built better.
It's like you
every
just
other
now you're
animal
but
built themselves.
but now you're ignoring what I'm saying. So like if you go with evolution, that would make science impossible because evolution doesn't explain like how we can do science. So without God designing us our minds and God designing the world, you couldn't even do science.
Science has already explained how we can do science.
No, it hasn't. Science can't justify something called the uniformity of nature, right? And all science claims rely on the uniformity of nature being true, and that's only.
Science has already explained how humanity was able to do what we can.
You just want to ignore. You just want to ignore. Well, he's just ignoring what I'm saying. So
no, I'm not.
You are ignoring what I'm saying. So the uniformity of nature. Okay, well, listen to me. The uniformity of nature is necessary for science, and only God's revelation can justify the uniformity of nature. So to deny God's revelation is to deny science. There's no way out of that.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That's stupid.
Human evolution created us with a bigger brain that allowed us to move forward in the evolutionary ladder.
Talking about how would science
that's an oxymoron. Human evolution created us. No, that's right there is an oxymoron. Human evolution created us to do this. Right there.
Oh my god! Human evolution allowed us to move forward. Is that better?
Okay, so you're giving it you're still giving it some kind of being-esque. Like
no,
it created
I'm not giving it any being.
Yes, you are.
No,
you are.
Human evolution allowed us.
But for there to be
every other animal on the planet.
Hold on. For there to be evolution, there has to be uniformity of nature. Without uniformity of nature, there's no evolution. You see what I'm saying?
No, I honestly.
No, you don't. Okay, well, if the future doesn't resemble the past, then there's no evolution. The evolution relies on the fact that the future resembles the past. If the future doesn't resemble the past, you couldn't talk about evolution because evolution would assume that the future resembles the past. So then the question would be, how do you know that the future resembles the past? Well, I would know as a Christian because God would have revealed that to me. But science
can't prove that. Resemble the past.
All science is based on that idea, that proposition being true, that it's true.
Yeah.
Like when you touch a hot stove, you say, in the future, when I touch a hot stove, it's going to burn my hand because in the past it burned my hand. All science reasoning is based on this idea that the future resembles the past. So how do you know the future resembles the past unless God orders the world to do so? That's the question.
Meaning if fire burnt your meaning if fire I'm going to try to make it simplified. Meaning if fire burnt you before, do you think it's going to do something different next time?
If a hot stove burns your hand.
I take back my original statement. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, well, he's just not interested.
No one here has belittled you in any way, Van Dam. Like your arguments are based on your pride. Like you can't be wrong, so therefore you'll learn nothing.
Did you guys kick him? Or did he just leave?
I kicked him.
Yeah.
Because he's not addressing like the argument at all. Like he
just
did. You
ignoring it.
asked it like 3 different
He-
times. You explained it.
Yeah, he's just throwing out insults. That's
Yeah.
what his argument is.
Yeah. And I got to get off here anyways. So, it's a
Thank you, Miranda, for letting me join.
yeah.
I
No
wasn't trying
problem.
to argue with you in the chat, Miranda. I just was having fun. That guy was
You're
funny.
fine. You're too good at trolling is the problem. And I'm like, what
He was
is
doing
free
the, he was doing the
subversive?
thing. He was doing the thing like, where does God say this verbatim in the Bible, or else it's not true, which is stupid.
Right.
You were very kind and very patient. Like you got to follow from me because of the way you handled that.
Oh yeah, PMR's his lives are awesome. They're
Mhm.
very entertaining and educational also. So highly recommend it.
All right, well, have a good day, you guys.
Yeah, God
God
bless. I'll
bless.
see y'all around.